What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Well, technically I guess this isn't really brand new, but it's something I've been planning on doing for a while. So a long while back I made a story where Turles ended up turning good, and also existing in the story because that's basically the barrier for entry. But since I recently redid the Gohan and Goten twins What If, I wanted to revisit this one as well because I feel like it had way more potential. And think of this like What If Raditz survived. It's a story where first of all Turles exists in the main story, and second of all, instead of him just immediately turning good, it's a story about him surviving and eventually adapting to the group. So, since it's like that Raditz scenario, we'll call this one What If Turles Survived. With that intro out of the way, let's begin discussing. The first real big thing here is adjusting Turles' story so he actually fits in with the main story, because the movie timelines are always strange. So we'll have to adjust when he comes to Earth, how he comes to Earth, and we're going to have to adjust the powers of everyone too. Our story begins after the Saiyan saga. By now, Krillin and Gohan have already left for Namek and have actually arrived there. Goku is still in the hospital and a new spaceship is being worked on too. Alongside Turles actually existing in the story, we're going to make one more small change here. And compared to Turles actually existing in the story, this change isn't too major. Yajirobe is able to get Senzu beans for Goku a little bit earlier on. Like, I'm talking a few hours earlier. Of course, the second he heals, he wants to go right over to Caps Corp right away and get onto the spaceship. But right as he's about to jump out the window and fly away, the TV in his room has a weird newscast. Apparently, some giant tree just appeared out of nowhere, destroying all life in the area, and it looks like it's threatening even more than just that. And Goku turns back to look outside, and over the horizon far in the distance, he could actually see something over there. It's a giant tree, just like the news is saying. He asks his friends if they know anything about this, and they don't. So Goku tries to focus, seeing if he could sense anything over there. And he is actually able to pick up something. Roshi could sense something too. There's some sort of evil presence over there. Now, of course, Goku has no idea of what this is, but it could be related to everything that's going on right now. What if Earth is being attacked by Frieza's army right now too? And regardless, even if it wasn't Frieza's army, something is threatening Earth right now, and Goku's really the only one here who is able to stop it. As much as he needs to get to Namek right away, it kind of has to wait a little bit, and whatever he's about to get into, he's got to make sure it goes quickly. So Goku flies over towards the tree, hoping this won't take too long. Let's actually rewind a bit. Not too long beforehand, a crew of space warriors headed towards Earth. They were looking for a strong planet, and it seems they might have found one. They already did have their sights on Earth beforehand, but now they have an even better reason. They were able to pick up on some really strong powers there, detecting the fight between Goku and Vegeta, not even realizing what it was. But this fight alone shows them that Earth might actually be pretty powerful, a great place to plant the Tree of Might. This of course is the Crusher Core, with Turles arriving on Earth, planting the Tree of Might. And that leads us to where we are now. They're waiting around the Tree of Might, waiting for that fruit to grow. As Goku gets closer, he hears a voice in his head. It's King Kai, sensing a terrible presence on Earth. He has no clue of what this is either, but he tells Goku what he did see. The tree decimated whatever area it was in, and the person behind it, it seems to be another Saiyan. But that makes no sense. The only three Saiyans left were Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa. King Kai is not sure who this guy is either. But he tells Goku, try and make it quick. Don't focus too much on this battle. It's more urgent to help his friends on Namek. And since they don't know what they're up against, he needs Goku to stop this right now. Because whatever this is really is threatening Earth. Raisin then picks up something on a scouter. A power's coming near them. It seems pretty low though, it's only a power of about 300. A yellow cloud flies over them as Goku jumps off. And upon first glance, the Crusher Core is pretty stunned by his appearance. Well, everyone besides Turles. The guy they're looking at looks exactly like their boss. There's a Saiyan here? Of course, Turles isn't really too shocked by the resemblance. They're both low-class warriors after all. Although, he is pretty happy to see a Saiyan here. That's going to make things a lot more interesting, and that explains why the powers are so high on this planet. Goku scans around and sees all the damage done by the tree. That's the first thing that really caught his eye, but then he gets a good look at the crew behind it, then locking eyes with Turles himself. That definitely is a Saiyan. I mean, the fact that they look the exact same, that's a pretty dead giveaway. This guy looks more like him than his own brother did. Goku tells him he has no clue who these guys are or why they're here, but he hopes they just make this quick. He only just got out of the hospital and he really needs to get going somewhere. Turles laughs and tells him not to worry. They'll make it quick, as the rest of the Crusher Corps launches in to attack Goku all at once. Turles watches as Goku fights all 5 members of the Crusher Corps together, thinking that they'll be able to defeat Goku. As they look more into this planet, it wasn't just the fight between him and Vegeta that drew him there. Turles actually did know of a Saiyan that was sent here, also knowing the name of the Saiyan is Kakarot. All the more reason to come to this planet. But he didn't realize Kakarot was this strong. Maybe it has to do with that battle that they detected. Because soon after the fight begins, Goku defeats all 5 of the Crusher Corps members at once, quickly flashing into Kaioken, using so much power that he even accidentally kills them all, even though he just wanted to defeat them. He didn't realize how strong he got. But next he needs to go up against this other Saiyan who's probably a bigger threat than these 5. So he looks at Turles asking who he is and why he looks the same as Goku. Turles looks up at the tree. One of the fruits is almost ready. He just needs a little bit more time. Kakarot sure does look different from a lot of the other Saiyans. He doesn't even have his tail anymore. He really wonders what the history of this Saiyan is. And he's glad to see such a strong low-class warrior here. You know, if anything, Kakarot would make a great member in his crew. Think about it. 2 low-class Saiyans. working together, taking over the universe, gathering heaps of power from the Tree of Might. But Goku tells Turles he has the wrong idea. He's not fighting Turles' crew for the sake of it. He's fighting them because they're a threat to Earth. He's got to protect this planet. And like he said, he's in a bit of a hurry. Goku charges up into his full power without going into Kaioken, flying right towards Turles as the clash begins. As they exchange blows, Goku tries to get more info out of Turles about who he is, and of course why he's here and what that tree is. It might be pointless to explain, but Turles does tell Goku that soon enough he'll see anyways. This tree has taken the life directly from Earth, and it's going to give it right to Turles. And despite Kakarot being pretty strong as is, Turles is able to fend him off pretty easily, to the point where Goku's even pushed into using Kaioken further. Going into ×4, this isn't as strenuous as it was when he was using it against Vegeta, but it still is really strenuous. This is the first time he used any of his power after the Saiyan saga because he just got out of the hospital. So he's stronger, but he hasn't trained yet and he hasn't really practiced with anything else so far. And with this, he's actually able to defeat Turles. Well, seemingly. Goku says he'd love to have an actual fight with Turles, but he doesn't have the time for it. And with him threatening Earth, this has to end here. But Turles says it's far from over. Quickly he jumps up into the tree, grabbing the freshly ripened fruit. It's time. He's surprised at how quickly it grew, and how powerful this seems to be. This planet must have a ton of energy. Goku flies up towards Turles to stop him, but he takes a bite of the fruit. And just as Goku's about to land a punch on him, Turles powers up, knocking Goku back with his power. Turles then rockets down towards Goku with a kick, driving him into the ground. As you can see, the battle's only just begun. Goku is still trying to make this quick, so he goes into Kaioken once more. But before where he was able to easily defeat Turles with Kaioken ×4, this time, Turles is able to easily keep up with it, and not just that, but overpower Goku completely. The power of the fruit, he could feel it coursing through his veins. He still holds it in his hand and he even takes another bite of it, bulking up once more, continuing to beat down on Goku. This is really bad now, but Goku has one way out of this. Just like Turles was able to escape from his death, Goku can do the same. Using the last of the power that he has left, he powers up into Kaioken once more, pushing his body to the limit. It's Kaioken ×5, and he uses it to just get away from Turles, not even fight him. He just needs a little bit of distance, and he uses all the power he has left. He could barely even fly away. But he looks down at the bag of senzu beans that he has. He really hates that he has to use one right now, but he has no other choice. Quickly popping one in his mouth and instantly being healed. Turles doesn't know what that was, but he's glad to see the fight hasn't ended. This is going to make it a lot more interesting. Goku starts fighting again, and it's not really doing anything to Turles, but that's not the point here. He's just buying some time. If Turles is stealing the energy from this planet, well, Goku's just going to have to steal it back somehow. Amidst the battle, Turles notices that Goku's not using one of his arms. The entire time he's holding it up, just fighting with his other arm and his legs. He must have beat him so bad that arm's broken. He can't even move it now. Turles, of course, has the upper hand again, but Goku doesn't care. He just needs a little bit more time. He doesn't have any friends here to gather energy from, and he can't gather it from the planet, but he has a really good idea here. He's, of course, trying to create a spirit bomb, but doing so by taking the energy from the tree itself. Exactly how he did it in the movie. But Turles then sees Kakarot's hand glowing. So that's what he was doing. He was charging some sort of attack. He didn't even notice amidst the fight, with Goku trying to stop Turles from attacking that arm. But as Turles looks at the arm, his scouter explodes. What is that attack he's using? And Turles is still holding on to the rest of the fruit. He tries to take one more bite of it, but it's not giving him any more power. And now he's a bit concerned. He's got to finish this off. Turles is able to knock Goku into the ground once more, charging a kill driver, ready to disintegrate him. He launches it down at Goku, but the attack vanishes as it collides with another attack from Goku. A small blue ball of energy comes up towards Turles. He tries to dodge it by flying up, but it follows him. He has no way to get out of this. In a last-ditch effort, Turles holds his left arm out, charging all of his ki into it and trying to launch a blast at it. But it does nothing. The spirit bomb flies right through the blast, going directly into Turles' hand, then exploding with a brilliant burst of blue ki, with Goku on the ground tired out and victorious. He could take another senzu bean, but right now he's just tired, and he wants to save the rest of them for everybody else, as well as his training on the way to Namek. But as he looks towards where the spirit bomb exploded, he sees something pretty interesting. Turles is still alive, although unconscious, and barely hanging on. Goku doesn't have enough ki left to actually kill Turles. He could eat a senzu bean and do that, but it might be better to save that senzu. But for another reason he decides maybe that's not the best idea. A few days later, Turles wakes up. Barely able to move, but he looks around and sees that he's on some sort of spaceship. And nearby, he sees Kakarot doing some push-ups. Where the hell is he? And how is he still alive? Goku's glad to see that he's finally awake. Of course, Turles is incredibly confused and demands to know what's going on here. Didn't he die? Well, Goku could have killed him, but he decided not to. First of all, he didn't even have enough energy left to do so. And he tells Turles he was in a pretty tough spot, but also saw an opportunity here. First of all, Turles was a pretty strong opponent, and it would be a shame to let that go to waste. Pretty similar to Vegeta. And also, Goku was pretty surprised to see that he survived the Spirit Bomb, especially after surviving a Spirit Bomb with that much power. So what, did Kakarot kidnap him? And if so, where are they even going? And also, if the issue was that he couldn't kill Turles, why not now? He clearly has some of his energy back. Well, it's kind of a risk, but he says Turles might make for a good ally. Yes, he actually could have killed him, and the rest of his friends on Earth told him to do the exact same. But again, Goku didn't really want to waste that strength, and he had a much better idea too. It could actually help him. Having Turles as an ally would be great. Really, allies. Why would Turles be an ally with him? Well, it's like Turles said before. He wanted Goku to join him, so why not the other way around? Why isn't Turles open to it now? Turles still has no idea of where he's going with this, but Goku asks him if he knows about Frieza. Is Kakarot stupid? Of course he knows about Frieza. Well, Goku says he's actually gonna go fight him right now. What? He's gonna fight Frieza? Is he serious? That's where he's going? So he kidnapped Turles to bring him into a fight with Frieza that they're probably not even gonna win. Yeah, exactly. That's the gist of it. Turles tells Kakarot he's an idiot, not just for letting him live, but for wanting to fight Frieza in the first place. Even with the power that he got from the Tree of Might, Turles honestly isn't sure if he'd even be able to do anything against Frieza. He can't even feel that power anymore. It must have only been temporary. Goku says that Turles still hasn't noticed yet. He tells him to take a look at himself. Turles stands up and sees that he's looking down at Goku. He's slightly taller than him. And also his musculature. It's different. He looks buffer than he was before. He's still pretty injured, but he has somewhat healed, and he even looks at his left arm. There's a scar running across it, a weird scar leading to his heart. That's where the spirit bomb hit. Now, Goku still has no idea of what that fruit was or how it worked, but it seems like the effects of it are ingrained within his body now, so that power might still be there too, and it might have been what protected him from the spirit bomb. Although, Goku kinda did make this choice on a whim. He was really close to listening to everybody, including King Kai, who was telling him to kill Turles. And despite this being a long shot, it might work. In worst case, Turles doesn't join him, and they get to fight again, which is still good for Goku because he gets another fight against him. It's not like Turles would have another tree anyways. And the next battle probably wouldn't be in Turles' favor. Once again, similar situation to what happened with Vegeta. And Goku also reminds Turles, not only does he have that power ingrained in him now, but as Saiyans, they're stronger. Goku grew stronger from that fight, and while Turles hasn't fully healed, he's grown stronger too. He's worried about how strong Turles will be once he's fully healed. He'll probably be even stronger than Goku is right now. Hence why he didn't give him a Senzu Bean, alongside the fact that he wants to save the rest of them. But the way Goku sees it, this isn't really too risky of a maneuver. As Turles is, he can't fight Goku right now. They can't fight on the ship either, it's too dangerous. The ship is durable, but if they're having a serious fight in here, who knows? That would just end up killing both of them. Turles could try and do it quickly, but again, he wouldn't have the strength right now. Plus, Goku has a feeling deep down that Turles would want to try something else. But if Turles does want to fight, so be it. Goku just lets him know that he's going to lose here. And the truth is, Goku's partially glad that it turned out this way. Turles is going to make a great opponent sometime. And even better, they might have an extra ally in Namek. Turles could barely even stand up right now, but he takes everything Goku's saying into consideration. And maybe this could be interesting. Fighting against Frieza's army? If Turles is going to die in a fight anyways, instead of losing to Kakarot here, it would be pretty fun to go out in a blaze of glory against Frieza's army. And that's if he dies. He might even have a chance, especially with this new power that he has. Now, Goku's totally fine if he has to kill Turles too. If he does try any stupid moves, he's more than prepared to do so. But surprisingly, Turles ends up agreeing with Goku. He calls Kakarot insane, but he likes that insanity. He couldn't really see it before. Kakarot is too good-hearted after all. But this is the way a Saiyan would think. And Turles, he respects that. He likes that Goku's thinking this way. And besides, if Turles does make it out of this alive, he could just escape later on. Probably finding some way to plant another Tree of Might and coming back even stronger. Goku still is a bit concerned, wondering if this was the right choice, but he feels content with it. As for everything on Namek, of course all that's going to go the same because it's going to be completely unaffected. But Goku's ship touches down on the planet, with him and Turles stepping off. Goku has 3 Senzu Beans left. He actually gave half a Senzu to Turles just so they could train together. Of course, Turles did try to steal a full one, but amidst the flight Goku was able to heal himself, and now he has 3 Senzus left. And this leads him to fight the Ginyu Force. Goku faces Jason Birder as Turles faces Recoome, and both win their respective fights, showcasing their amazing power. Although, Goku simply defeats Jason Birder, while Turles kills Recoome, then killing the unconscious Jason Birder, telling Kakarot he shouldn't be so soft and keep them alive. If he weren't in a rush and didn't accidentally use too much power, he probably would have spared the Crusher Core too, wouldn't he? Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan are saved, but they're pretty surprised to see who's with Goku. There's someone who looks exactly like him, and Vegeta can't believe it especially. Is that another Saiyan? Turles laughs, glad to see another surprise here. Prince Vegeta, and not just that, Kakarot's son. There's more Saiyans than he thought. Naturally, this leaves a lot of questions for everybody. So, did Goku really make the right choice here, letting Turles live and bringing him along with him? As Turles gets a good look at everyone, he realizes that maybe this won't be so bad. He already got to showcase his power against the Ginyu Force, and he's not even fully healed yet. He truly has grown a lot stronger. Kakarot has too. Plus, he does learn about the Dragon Balls here when they're mentioned. So there's wish-granting orbs here, and once his strength is fully back, he's even going to be able to fight Frieza, possibly even defeat him. This is going to be really fun. Although, the Ginyu Force isn't necessarily defeated yet. They hear a voice yell out behind them as a beam of energy comes towards Turles. Ginyu's still there. He was watching everything, obviously. and he took this brief moment to steal Turles' body, reading the power on his scouter and seeing that Turles was the strongest here. Well, supposedly. As he gets into Turles' body, he realized that it's kind of injured still. Even though he was exerting a great amount of power, it's because he couldn't really suppress it. Goku, on the other hand, actually can suppress his. So after using some of it against the other Ginyu Force members, it dropped right back down, but Turles is at a constant high. Still learning to control his ki. But this is still good for Ginyu. The power in this body should still be enough, especially if he could heal himself a bit. But even without that, he'd probably be able to defeat everyone here. The Ginyu Force is already giving them trouble. And this guy fought them with ease, so now that he has his body, this should be good. Although Ginyu is a bit disappointed because the increase in power isn't as much as he expected. Mainly due to Turles still not being fully healed. But Goku says he'll handle this. He's actually the strongest one here right now. Plus, Ginyu's not going to have any idea of how to use Turles' body. And on top of that, Goku knows exactly where Turles is injured, so he can exploit that in this fight. Meanwhile, Turles is in Ginyu's injured body. Still pretty confused on what just happened. In a burst of anger, he yells at Goku and tells him to kill that bastard. But then he realized that that's his body, so maybe don't do that. Just beat him really badly and then get him back into his original body. That's true, they can't really kill Ginyu here either. At least not if they want to keep Turles alive. And of course Goku does want to keep him alive. So Goku faces Ginyu in Turles' body. It is kind of a tough fight for Goku, and he does get a bit injured in this, but he is able to take the win here and actually defeat Ginyu. Even without having full access to Turles' power, Ginyu still is pretty strong here in this body. Once defeated, he tries to take Goku's body next, but Goku's able to think pretty quickly, and he activates Kaioken at its full power, getting enough speed to grab Ginyu's original body, swapping it back with Turles, with Vegeta then simply walking over to it, destroying what's left of Ginyu. Although Turles is pretty worn out, and Goku is too. Thankfully, Goku didn't get beat nearly as bad as Turles was. So they're going to need to heal somehow, but it's fine because they have the healing pots. Turles is probably going to take a bit longer to heal, but as for Goku, he won't take too long. And now that they have a moment to breathe, Vegeta asks Goku to explain who this guy is. How and where did he find another Saiyan? Especially one this strong, one who appears to be a low-class warrior but has that great amount of power. And Turles chuckles to himself weakly. The prince is scared of him, isn't he? Goku says he's going to have to explain later because it is kind of a long story, and Krillin's also worried. Why did he bring the Saiyan here anyways? Of course, they want to know how he found Turles in the first place, but mainly why is he here? And Goku says he really had no choice. Really, he kinda did. But Goku saw potential in him and thinks that he'll be a great ally. Even Vegeta's allied with them here, so the chances of Turles working with them, especially with the fact that he has something in common with Goku, it seems more likely. After all, as a fellow low-class warrior, he did want to join forces with Goku, although with different motives in mind. It's also a gut feeling for Goku too, and it's kind of the same as how he spared Vegeta. But he does think this is the right choice. Plus, after this whole thing on Namek, they probably won't have to worry about him either. It's a shame they use all the Senzu beans, but thankfully Goku's not going to take too long to heal. Turles, on the other hand, they're not too sure. Especially because Ginyu injured the body before he left it. As the two of them start getting healed, a wish is made to revive Piccolo and bring him to Namek, just like normal. Now, nothing really changes here, especially because Goku and Turles are both out of commission. So there's not many big apparent changes yet. Although Piccolo obviously does know the fact that Turles is there. King Kai filled everybody in, and Piccolo's kind of concerned about this. The fact that there's another Saiyan there, and the fact that Vegeta's there in general, both of those are big points of concern for him. He wonders if that guy will even work with them. Vegeta's one thing because they at least know they have a common enemy, but Turles, they know nothing about him. He hopes he could trust Goku's judgment on this one, and Gohan thinks that they can. Even Vegeta's working with them here, so maybe that Turles guy will too. But this is all communicated through King Kai because Piccolo's still teleported to a different part of the planet like normal, so he doesn't get there just in time. Piccolo makes his way over, and Frieza does too, eventually finding the group after they summon Porunga. Once again, a lot of this goes the same. The fight with first form Frieza is not really too different, and then he goes into his second form. This is where the changes occur. Specifically at the point in the fight where Frieza nearly stabs Krillin. As he launches up to pierce through Krillin with his horns, he suddenly comes to a halt midair. Someone grabs onto his tail, swings him around, and then throws him down into the water below, saving Krillin in the nick of time. Krillin's terror turns to excitement. It's his best friend. Goku's back. And he's pretty angered too, especially to see Krillin being nearly killed like that, alongside Gohan's life being threatened. But it should be all okay now. Goku feels a lot stronger now that he's healed here again. Plus, he can sense that Piccolo's about to arrive too, and something's strange about his power this time. Either way though, this is good. Now they finally have a chance against Frieza. With Frieza of course pretty surprised to see another Saiyan here, and he looks so strangely familiar too. But he's definitely a low-class warrior, so probably nothing of concern. Even Vegeta's not too big of an issue for him. Of course, Frieza's judgment is wrong here, and then Goku's able to force him to go into his third form. Here, two things happen. For one, Vegeta tries to get Krillin to hurt him so he can get a Zenkai boost, and Piccolo also arrives on the scene too, which is a perfect distraction because it means Vegeta's going to do this completely unnoticed. And even in his terrifying third form, the group is still able to put up a pretty good fight here. Goku's not even forced to use his full power just yet, and with Piccolo helping, and with Vegeta getting a power boost too, Combined, they're able to make some good progress, but Frieza still has one more form. He's still holding back significantly, as Frieza showcases his final form, easily defeating Goku here, not even giving him a chance to use Kaioken either. But the group isn't too worried because Dende is still nearby and Frieza still hasn't noticed him. The rest of them just need to buy some time. Goku gets healed by Dende, and all the while he wonders how much longer it's going to take for Turles to get back. Vegeta gave them a time frame and it's already passed, so where is he? And just as Dende finishes healing him up, Goku senses a familiar power next to him. Turles arrives on the scene. He's surprised that he was able to find this all without a scouter. Looks like he finally learned how to sense power accurately. Plus, he's pretty surprised at the new set of clothes that he has on. His armor was pretty beat up, especially because it went through two big battles. First, the one with Goku on Earth, and then the one here against Ginyu. Turles actually took these clothes from the ship. It seems they were extra clothes for Kakarot, and they just barely fit him because of the size increase. But they'll make it do for now. And Goku just looks at him in awe, feeling the power that Turles has. Both of them just got huge boosts in power. But Turles especially is interesting. After all, this is the first time that Turles was actually fully healed. The Tree of Might actually did make him the strongest, didn't it? Goku just hopes that he can count on Turles to help here. He didn't realize that Turles would get this strong. But Turles says what the hell. He'll go for it. He's glad about this power. He's happy. Plus, as a fellow low-class warrior, he'll stick together with Kakarot. He may be kinda soft as a warrior, and it does annoy him that Kakarot spared him on Earth. But at the same time, he just saved his life against Ginyu, so he can't really be mad about that. So as thanks here, he'll form a temporary alliance with the fellow low-class warrior. It's a win-win for him. He gets a good fight out of this, and maybe he'll get those Dragon Balls too. Then surprised to hear that they're actually gone. Oh, that's kind of a bummer. Well, whatever. He's still gonna get a good fight, and the look on Frieza and Vegeta's faces will be worth it. Vegeta especially. Him being here makes Turles really happy. He could prove the might of a low-class Saiyan to the prince. He was already scared before, and Turles wants to see that again. Turles' superiority complex is a good thing here, because he admires Goku for being like him, and it makes him more willing to ally with Goku, being able to prove his superiority to the Emperor and the Prince. The two of them fly back into the fight together. The rest of the group can't believe the power that they're feeling, not just from Goku, but from Turles especially, and Piccolo's really concerned after sensing it up close. Why did Goku bring him here? Frieza at first thinks he's seeing double. He thinks he's hallucinating because he thought he killed that Saiyan. But Goku was barely able to make it, and now there's another person here who looks exactly like him. Well, almost exactly like him. Both of these things come as a huge shock to him. There's 2 extra Saiyans left, and they're both low-class warriors that look exactly the same. Maybe they're even brothers. Frieza doesn't know. But Turles introduces himself to Frieza. His name is Turles, formerly the leader of the Crusher Corps, although they're kinda disbanded now. Oh, the Crusher Corps. Frieza's army had actually heard of that faction, but they never knew that there was a Saiyan part of it, especially leading it. But this only serves to anger Frieza even more, because the Crusher Corps kinda was a bit of competition. Though they didn't have much of an impact on the Frieza force, the Crusher Corps did go around conquering smaller planets. Not only does Frieza hate Turles for being a Saiyan, but he hates him for being competition, stealing his business. But it's good to have all the Saiyans in one place. This must be his lucky day. Sure, he didn't get the Dragon Balls, but he's gonna get to finally wipe out all the Saiyans. In terms of power levels here, there's not really too much to cover because most of the group is pretty much the same. But let's look at Turles and Goku at least. Turles' power is at 40 million. The power of the Tree of Might is still coursing through his veins. Plus, with the multitude of Zenkais he got and all the training he had on the way to Namek, he actually grew pretty significantly, which is why it was such a surprise to everyone. As for Goku, he's at 6 million, placing him exactly at 120 million with Kaioken times 20. I feel like this is pretty reasonable for Goku. He did have more boosts in power, but they were smaller, plus that one big one from Frieza. And on top of that, his training on the way to Namek was better because he had a training partner. So I think 6 million compared to 3 million, it's a pretty reasonable boost. This also does mean that at Kaioken times 20, Goku matches Frieza's 100% power. But of course, he can't maintain Kaioken forever. The group all fights Frieza together, but it's mainly Goku, Turles, and Piccolo doing the heavy lifting. And with him just in his final form right now, they're actually doing pretty well against him, especially at a point when Goku powers up into Kaioken times 20. Frieza eventually gets up to 50%, but Goku completely dogwalks him. At 50%, Frieza barely overpowers Turles, but Goku with Kaioken times 20 has double the power. And this gets him to realize he needs just one good shot at Frieza, and he'll be able to defeat him here. Kaioken times 20 is more than enough, even though he can't really use it too well. And at times 10, he exactly matches Frieza. And Turles is pretty impressed too. Even though Kakarot's base is weaker, that technique he uses makes him a lot stronger. It's the same thing he used to fight Turles back on Earth. But with the advantage in power, Goku probably still would want Frieza to show off his full strength. Of course, the others think he's crazy for this. But Goku's not being cocky here. He's just confident in his power and Turles'. What better way to defeat Frieza than to shatter his pride? And you know what? Turles can get behind that. Vegeta can too, even though he's not really going to be doing any of the attacking here. King Kai yells into Goku's mind calling him an idiot, but they let Frieza do this anyways. With Goku briefly dipping out, it's Frieza powers up. And it's just like Goku thought. It does make him a lot more powerful, but still, Frieza's gonna lose here. The reason Goku dipped out is because he went to go get healed by Dende again. It didn't give him a massive boost in power because he wasn't really too injured, but it put him back at full health, and it did buff him a little bit. With him now at full strength and a little bit stronger, he actually does overpower Frieza very slightly. And with help from Turles, collectively they completely overpower Frieza. It's a tough fought battle, especially because Goku needs to use Kaioken Times 20, but they're able to defeat Frieza finally. Frieza nearly tries to blow up the planet, but Goku's able to stop it. Goku got what he wanted. He got a good fight out of Frieza, and he got to completely shatter his pride. Frieza's defeated, and Goku tells him to go home. But before Frieza or anyone else could do anything, Turles simply walks up to the defeated Emperor. How pathetic. Not only is he going to be killed by a Saiyan, but a low-class one of all things. With Goku sensing Turles' power spiking, immediately knowing what he's about to do, but it's already too late. Turles completely vaporizes the weakened Frieza, cementing his spot as the mightiest. And he looks to Goku. It's just like he told him before. He's way too soft, sparing Frieza of all people. But it's fine because their alliance here is done anyways. He thanks Kakarot for the experience, and tells him not to worry. He doesn't plan on coming back to Earth again. Well, at least not to take it over. Maybe he'll come back for a fight with Kakarot someday. But for now, this is really all he wanted. He launches off, going to take one of the Frieza Force spaceships, flying off into space. The others really can't believe it, especially Vegeta. He knows why Kakarot's so strong. That power, Kaioken, is the same thing that he fought against on Earth. But Turles, he had no technique, no transformation. And it makes Vegeta wonder, is Turles a Super Saiyan? But they're not going to have an answer anytime soon, because Turles is now off on his own. Piccolo still can't believe he let Turles go and brought him here in the first place. But Goku says it all worked out in the end. And look, Turles didn't even threaten them. And he nudges Piccolo and whispers, honestly, if anything, Vegeta's still a bigger threat than Turles. At least with Turles, they know he's not going to attack Earth again. With the Dragon Balls back on Earth, Kami wishes for all the Namekians and everyone else killed by Frieza to be revived. This also does bring back Porunga temporarily, and they use that last wish to bring Yamcha back. Ten and Chaozu will come back together later on, and the Namekians actually offer to do this. Mori becomes the new elder when Guru dies not too long later. And as a thanks to everyone here, the least they could do is revive the other people that they wanted to revive. They're just gonna have to wait a few more months, which is fine. As for Vegeta, he really has no clue where to go now. He could do the same thing Turles did, just steal one of the ships there and leave. But the rest of the group kinda wants to keep an eye on him, and once they regroup with Bulma, she decides to just drag him back to Earth. They already let one Saiyan escape, so it's better to keep Vegeta close too. With Bulma just as surprised to hear about Turles and everything that happened with him. On the way back, Goku finally explains everything too, now having the time to tell them what happened. Honestly, Goku doesn't really know either. Turles came to Earth, grew some big tree, ate a fruit off it, and then got really strong somehow. But they're still confused on why he let Turles go. He had the chance to kill him multiple times, but didn't. And not just that, but he brought Turles along. Vegeta's especially angry about this, but Goku does remind him. He did the exact same thing for Vegeta not too long ago. And Vegeta doesn't really have a rebuttal for that. And you know, Gohan kinda sees why he did it. Just like he told Piccolo before. He trusted Goku's judgment, and it turned out that he was right. In the end, they won against Frieza. Turles isn't a threat, and he helped defeat Frieza. And also on top of that, he did kill Frieza. They don't know if Goku leaving him alive was the right choice. Although Goku does admit, he did expect Frieza to try some stupid underhanded tactic later on. And Goku was prepared to kill him if that was the case. Although, he wonders what plans Turles has next. And Goku's gonna get a lot stronger for their next meeting. But he's gonna do it his own way. He's gonna work for it. Turles is proof that low-class warriors can grow really strong, but so is Goku. And he did it through hard work and training. He overcame an elite Saiyan, and he's gonna overcome this low-class Saiyan too. In the end, his hard work will let him win.
Immediately after leaving Namek, Turles actually has no clue of what he wants to do. He has no more seeds for the Tree of Might, so he can't plant another. As much as he does want to plant more, he can't really do that right now, but it doesn't really matter to him. It seems like the power of the Tree of Might is ingrained within him now. He thought maybe he could just keep eating fruits and grow stronger, but something already changed with him. Goku already noted it too. So maybe as is, he's fine. He has grown stronger from the battle with Frieza too. Healing too because the ship he stole has a healing chamber on it. A very nice resource for him. Although he's a pretty big target right now. King Cold of course knows about Frieza's death by this point. Mainly because Turles actually taunts King Cold. He never goes to Namek, which means Namek's actually safe. Because Turles starts communicating with King Cold on his ship. He's a little bored right now and he wants to fight someone else, so he lets King Cold know that he was the one to kill Frieza. He's not going to find any trace of the Frieza Force left on Namek. If he wants revenge or something, King Cold's going to have to track him down. Which is exactly what he does. It's not exactly too hard because he also has a Frieza Force ship right now, allowing King Cold to track him pretty easily. But that's what Turles wants. He needs another test of his power, especially in a 1v1, rather than a 2v1 like he did with Goku. This will be a first for him, the first time fighting while fully healed, with the power of the Tree of Might, and fighting alone against a strong opponent. But much to his surprise, the fight with King Cold isn't really too extravagant. Turles knew he was powerful and likely stronger than King Cold, but this is worse than he thought. King Cold's no fun to fight against, with Turles killing him relatively easily, wiping out what little remains of the Frieza Force as well. He didn't just do that just so he can get a good fight though. That was a big reason, but the main reason he did this is because he wanted to steal Frieza Force mothership and see if there was any intel on there. Mainly regarding the Tree of Might, and there's nothing on there. Kind of a bummer still, but whatever. Turles will find another Tree of Might, and if not, he's gonna grow stronger regardless. He knows he can now. But strangely enough, while he's alone in space, he figures out that he's wanted by another group of people, and not an army this time. The Galactic Patrol's actually after him. They've known about him for a while, and with him killing Frieza and King Cold, it's made him one of the biggest threats in the galaxy, maybe the universe in general. Now the Galactic Patrol's got an eye on him and they want to stop him because he could cause a lot of havoc. They of course know he was some sort of space mercenary before, but now that he's defeated Frieza and King Cold, that power kind of worries them to say the least. This should be a fun time alone for Turles. Back on Earth there's a passage of time, up to the point where Goku's supposed to get back on Earth and when King Cold's supposed to show up. But of course neither of those happen. Goku never goes to Yardrat, and King Cold doesn't show up because he's dead, and there's no Mecha Frieza because he's also dead. But around this point in time, a time traveler does show up. It's future Trunks. With a few bits of info for everyone. Of course he's mainly there to give Goku the heart virus medicine, and warn him about the heart virus in general, as well as the androids. Here, a lot of Trunks' timeline is actually the same, because they ask about Turles, wondering if he ever came back to Earth, and Trunks says Turles never returned. He's actually heard about him. But it's really only from Bulma and Gohan. And the thing is, they barely knew Turles. The last time they saw him was on Namek. He's not sure why, but he never did come back to Earth. Maybe he's dead, or maybe he saw no reason to come back to Earth. Trunks never got an answer, and it's probably for the better, because if he came to Earth, that could cause a lot of trouble, especially with the androids still there. Little does Trunks know, the reason Turles never showed up to his planet was because, well, there was nothing really there to interest him. He almost did come back at some point, but he saw that there was an apocalypse going on. Not a huge one, but it's still a noticeable scale. And Turles couldn't sense any strong powers there, so he didn't bother coming back to Earth, assuming that all the Saiyans there died, which was pretty underwhelming for him. But Trunks also has one more thing to show off. A golden aura surrounds him as his hair stands up and turns golden. This is a form called Super Saiyan, at least they assume that's what it is. Gohan actually unlocked this sometime during his training. Derived from anger, although he got it a lot later on because no one knew this existed. Eventually Trunks was able to unlock it himself too once future Gohan died. This is huge news for them because they've never seen the Super Saiyan transformation. That never happened on Namek. So now they have a new goal to work towards. Knowing that the Super Saiyan form exists, that's going to be a real big help for them. Just in case, Trunks is going to return in a few years' time to make sure everything's gone okay. But for now he's going to go back to his timeline, hoping he could save the future. Of course, the two timelines are separate and all he's going to be doing is changing this timeline. More than he expected to. Him showing up actually caused a huge ripple effect, because not too long after his appearance, everyone could sense a strong presence coming towards Earth, and it's a very familiar and ominous presence. Goku can immediately tell by the key. Goku flies over to where he scented the ship and sees a Frieza Force ship landing. And, unsurprisingly, Turles steps off. Well, it's a little bit surprising because from what he heard, Turles never came back to Earth. But Trunks traveling to the past actually did alter some things, mainly because he went Super Saiyan, and Turles was able to sense that way out in the depths of space. He actually does monitor Earth occasionally. Of course, in the future timeline he stopped because there was nothing interesting there. He couldn't sense the androids, and no one had Super Saiyan by the time he was still monitoring it. But here, he sensed this immediately and came here. He only recently learned to sense Ki on Namek, so he didn't know who this was. But he wanted to check out that power in case it was related to Kakarot or something. Plus, he also decides that he wants to lay low here. The Galactic Patrol's no issue for him, but he'd rather not have to deal with that. Of course, he doesn't realize that Bulma's friends with Jocko. But he doesn't say this out loud, and she wouldn't report it anyways. It would be pretty easy to fend off the Galactic Patrol, but it would be annoying. He'd just be fighting dozens of people, who are far too weak to put up a good fight. There may be some strong people there, though, that he doesn't know of. So hopefully this gets him off their radar. But not only that, he's going to grow a lot stronger here. Whether it be through training with the other Saiyans, or, and this is a long shot, growing another Tree of Might. Since there was a Tree of Might here before, even though Goku destroyed it, Turles feels like there might be some sort of remains here from it, hoping he can find a seed to plant another one. Although he comes to the realization not too long later that a lot of the damaged Earth was already restored. When Porunga recharged, not only did the Namekians revive Ten and Chaozu, but they already did learn from Kami that Earth was damaged by something. So out of kindness, the Namekians actually restored the damage done by the Tree of Might. So there's absolutely no trace of the Tree of Might. Turles will probably have to give up on that for now, unless he tries to recreate his own or something. Thankfully, he doesn't know of Super Saiyan either. They just say that was Goku's power he sensed. Which is really weird because it felt way different from what he sensed from Goku beforehand, but he doesn't really question it too much. It does make sense that that strong power would be Kakarot. But returning to Earth does cause one big issue. Naturally, a lot of them aren't too sure about having Turles here, but it's probably less risky than Vegeta, especially because once Turles comes back, Vegeta tries to pick a fight with Turles. Vegeta's had a disdain for Turles ever since he met him, and it is kind of mutual between the two. Vegeta tries to pick a fight, but it doesn't really go too well for him. Turles defeats him with relative ease, letting Vegeta know that he also killed King Cold while he was gone. He learns of the androids too, and decides he's probably going to stay here a while. If they're going to be strong opponents, he'll want to fight against them too. So on the upside for Trunks, he did actually let everyone know about the androids, so hopefully it will go well here. But obviously he didn't intend for Turles to come back either. But Goku's kinda glad about this. He was hoping to see Turles again. So this is a pretty nice surprise. Especially because this kinda helps up with their training. Turles obviously still isn't really a good guy. He's pretty much in the Vegeta territory. But he's a lot more willing to actually work with the group, especially Goku. Once more his shared identity with Goku as a low-class Saiyan, that kinda does help out here. Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, and Turles train together, with Turles also getting a lot of use out of gravity training. Over this passage of time, at some point Goku eventually does unlock Super Saiyan. Now all he really knew is that Trunks and Gohan unlocked this from anger and sadness. If Goku had one of those emotions as catalyst, maybe he could have unlocked it sooner. Like on Namek for example. But he unlocks it through training and much later than normal. Naturally Vegeta and Turles try to get that too, with Vegeta even leaving Earth to try and train for it himself. He's been very solitary in general besides being with Bulma, which is also relatively rare, but they still become a thing. As for Turles, he's relatively solitary too, but he's more extroverted, and he does try to blend in with society a bit. Deciding if he's going to stay here on Earth for a while, he wants to live a good life, so he seeks riches here on Earth too. He feels like he's grown past the need for his space conquest, especially because he could just do that alone. He doesn't need a crew anymore, and conquering planets is pointless without his Tree of Might, and he has no use for an empire like Frieza had. Especially because he kinda gets used to laying low like this, and having a more low-key lifestyle. So if he's gonna live here with a calmer life, maybe he should try and make it a lofty life here too. We'll be seeing more of this side of him later on. At the end of the few years of training, androids 19 and 20 appear in the city just like normal. In this city, they actually encounter Turles and think it's Goku. They don't have much data on him, and when they try to attack him, he's able to fend them off, letting the group find 19 and 20 pretty easily. Although unfortunately, Goku still does fall to the heart virus pretty much like normal, but it should be all okay. Turles is still pretty strong as is even though he doesn't have Super Saiyan. And just as the fight's about to begin, Vegeta shows up too, feeling pretty confident in his ability because he shows off his newest power. He's also become a Super Saiyan. Vegeta fights Android 19, while Turles fights Android 20. Of course for Vegeta this isn't really a problem. Through intense training and emotion, he was able to unlock this form on his own, feeling like he's finally surpassed Kakarot and Turles. He's elated right now, especially after defeating one of the androids. Although much to his surprise, Turles is actually keeping up with Android 20. Now in comparison to them, Vegeta thought these androids were weak to begin with. But still, to think that Turles is fighting without Super Saiyan, it kinda does annoy Vegeta. Turles is able to destroy Android 20, meaning he can't get back to his lab. Vegeta makes a snide remark too, wondering how strong Turles would be if he didn't use the Tree of Might as a crutch. He couldn't even unlock Super Saiyan before he and Kakarot could. Maybe Turles is just inadequate as a warrior, at least in Vegeta's eyes. But Turles doesn't take the bait. He reminds Vegeta how easily he beat him in that battle they had so many years ago. When he first came to Earth, he asked Vegeta to remind him who won that battle again. Not to mention, the look on Vegeta's face when he first came to Namek. Vegeta's insults don't really faze him because he knows Vegeta's simply afraid of him. Super Saiyan or not, that won't change that fact. Piccolo tries to calm things down, but it's already too late. Vegeta and Turles are about to get into a fight with each other. But right before the battle starts, they sense another familiar power nearby. Trunks has finally returned, with them now of course realizing who Trunks actually is, Vegeta and Bulma's son. He was stillborn here by the way, which makes him pretty relieved to hear. Also, he gets an update from the group as to what happened. First of all, he asks why Goku looks a little bit different and why his ki feels different. Then he realizes that's not Goku. That's Turles. He does remember hearing that Turles looked very similar to Goku, and yeah, that did turn out to be true, but he's more so surprised to see Turles here in general. Which is especially concerning for him because Turles never showed up in his timeline, and as Trunks puts the pieces together, he slowly begins to realize anything he does here isn't going to affect his timeline, it's going to affect this one. Well, at the very least, he could try and save this one from the androids. Even more concerning is the fact that two different androids showed up, androids 19 and 20. Thankfully they were defeated and they weren't able to escape. But this still might be an issue, because he doesn't know how androids 17 and 18 were activated. Sure, they didn't show up yet, but maybe they're about to show up in a different city soon. Maybe they're going to activate automatically. They don't even realize that they're supposed to be activated. So this introduces a new problem. They're going to need to find androids 17 and 18 and confirm that they're actually gone, making sure they're not activated and never will activate. So even without Jiro escaping, they're still going to have to look for his lab. They all regroup at Capsule Corp to try and figure out what to do next. Thankfully there's not any androids running around right now, at least to their knowledge, so it doesn't seem like anything's too urgent. Which is really good because Goku's still gotta recover from the heart virus. He's gotten his medicine already, but it's gonna take a bit for him to heal. But an even bigger threat is lurking about, high up on the lookout. Kami is watching over everything. Of course here, Piccolo and Kami don't even fuse yet. Actually, they don't have a reason to fuse here at all. But Kami senses something terrifying down on the surface. But the presence disappears. He warns the others of it. It felt like a mix of everybody's keys, as well as the key of a bunch of normal people just screaming out. There's some sort of other monster down there and he doesn't know who it is, or what it is. But the most he could do about it right now is warn them about it. No one has a clue about what's going on. Of course, the thing that he sensed was Cell, still going around absorbing people, and being a lot more covert because it seems like no one's even aware of him just yet. He tries to be a lot more careful. He does try absorbing some people, but he goes for a different target here. Slowly he makes his way towards Jiro's lab. He actually knows where that is, and if he's lucky, he'll be able to find the androids there, unactivated too. He keeps his presence really low profile, not even absorbing any more people, especially because more and more, he's starting to realize that the androids might not even be activated yet. If they were, he'd expect to hear more about them on the news. He only heard about 20 and 19, but 17 and 18, he's heard nothing about that on the news. Maybe they are out there, but it's more likely that they're still at the lab. And eventually, Cell is able to make it to the lab, way before our group can even find it. And it's like Christmas morning. The androids are there for him, just for the taking. They're not even activated yet. This is way easier than he expected. He can't believe it. So, he simply just absorbs them, becoming perfect right then and there. But he's not done with this lab yet. He knows that his present self is in this lab too, hidden away somewhere. Now, of course, it would be no use absorbing his present self, since he's still very early in development, but that present self might have some extra data that he doesn't have. Especially because Cell could tell by now that this timeline's different too. So, he finds his present self, destroys him, and also takes whatever data is left on the computer. Now, he's not able to get any extra DNA for himself, but he does get data about Turles, who he didn't know about before. This data was just sent from Dr. Gero right to the computer. He still knows very little about Turles, but Cell at least knows that there's someone else here. Someone who shares some sort of connection to Goku, especially because of the resemblance. But that's of no concern right now. Now with perfection, Cell destroys the lab, leaving no trace of it behind. And he floats above the remains, laughing to himself. That really was easier than he expected. He still can't believe it either. He's so glad that he's become perfect, especially this quickly. But now that he's perfect, he wants to have some fun pretty soon. And simultaneously, back at Capsule Corp, the group is able to sense this all go down. They sense a huge amount of ki, and it feels like a mix of everybody's ki. There was a brief spike in it, and then it disappeared. They sense Cell destroying the lab. They might not just be working with the androids here.
Immediately after sensing Cell's power, the group decides to search for it because obviously it seems to be a big threat. And this is where they come upon a few pieces of bad news. The second they actually locate where it once was, well, they see first of all he's not there, so they don't even know what they're tracking yet. But worst of all, the place that it led them to, it was Jiro's lab, the place they were looking for. But it's completely decimated. Turles jokes that this might be good. The androids are gone for sure, and for all they know, whoever destroyed the lab is maybe another Trunks from another timeline. Why else would someone destroy the lab, right? Well, yeah, that's a pretty big mystery. Why would they destroy the lab? But that still doesn't explain that power. Kami did warn them about it too. Turles actually doesn't know what this is, and he's just trying to lighten the mood. Although, he is excited to figure out what this power truly is. And they get their answer not too long later. A man floats out of Jiro's lab and tells them to watch the news tonight. This is their first encounter with Cell. Obviously they try and chase him, but to no avail. And later on the Cell Games is announced. This is going to be his way of getting everyone together now that he's perfect. It should be a pretty fun way to test his power too. Thankfully, Cell is gracious enough to give them some time to prepare. He just became perfect, and they still don't really know who he is after all, so he's going to give them 10 days. That should be enough time to train and actually prepare for a strategy. Of course, the group thinks this isn't nearly enough time. They leave the remains of the lab and go regroup somewhere. Thankfully, by now, Goku's back in action, and he's filled in on everything. But Goku does have a good suggestion. He mentions the time chamber and says that maybe they should just use that. That means they can get a year's worth of training in a day. And Vegeta agrees to it as long as he gets to go first. Of course, he not only wants to get ahead of Kakarot, but Turles too. So the first two to go in are Vegeta and Trunks. And while they're training in there, Turles tries to think of what he's going to do for a strategy, as well as Goku thinking of what he wants to do too. Obviously they're going to train in the time chamber, but they still got to figure out what to train for. Goku has decided he's going to train on actually mastering Super Saiyan, and he's going to go in with Gohan. Turles was going to suggest that he goes in with Gohan too because he'd like to see what that hybrid Saiyan is capable of. Maybe his latent power is greater than they can even imagine. But regardless, Goku was going to go in with Gohan anyways because that's his son, and he wants to train him up. Turles would go in with Piccolo, but he didn't fuse with Kami here. He contemplated it, but it would be too risky because then they wouldn't have the Dragon Balls. Especially since they're facing a villain that they don't know about like Cell, they kinda do need the Dragon Balls. So for that reason, Piccolo doesn't fuse here, and Turles isn't going to go in the time chamber with him because he feels like Piccolo might hold him back a bit. Turles will go in after the other Saiyans, because this way he'll get to see what they unlocked. Vegeta and Trunks exit. They have ascended Super Saiyan, but only grade 2 and grade 3, with Trunks of course not even realizing the downsides of grade 3. Goku and Gohan go in next, and nothing really changes with that. They both exit the time chamber, both with grade 4 Super Saiyan, completely mastering the form. Turles actually is about to ask Goku to go back in with, but Goku's going to be using the next few days to actually rest, and make sure they could use this form without any stress at all. But he does let Turles know everything that he figured out about Super Saiyan. Turles still seems to be behind the group because he doesn't have a Super Saiyan. Well, theoretically he's behind the group. He's far stronger than any of the other Saiyans in base, but he doesn't have a transformation. All the other Saiyans, even Gohan, they now have Super Saiyan. So yes, while in base he's stronger than everyone else, once they transform, he's completely left in the dust. No matter what, he's leaving the time chamber with a new form. In here he spends a year alone, in complete solitude, still unsure of why he can't get this form. He should be capable of it. Look how strong he is compared to everyone else. Even Vegeta got that form, and that was before the Room of Spirit and Time, and Vegeta's always been behind Turles. Even when he first unlocked Super Saiyan, Turles was able to keep up with him. But now, Turles has no shot at keeping up with them without transforming. But then it hits Turles. Maybe it's not Super Saiyan that he needs to get. Maybe he needs to completely reinvent himself. Maybe it's something different. He's not looking in the right place. He has to remember, he's different from the other ones. Ever since he ate the fruit of the Tree of Might, his power, no, his body overall, they've just been different. He can't compare himself to the other Saiyans because he's different physically now. Whatever Goku theorized before about the Tree of Might's power being ingrained within Turles now, that's probably right, and that probably changed him fundamentally. He wonders what he could have been like if he ate more fruits of the Tree of Might. But he's done with that conquest. He's not going to gain power artificially anymore by doing that. He's going to use what he currently has, and grow that way. Kakarot can grow from hard work, even Vegeta can. So, Turles is going to do the same. He's been working hard, but he has to work harder. And more importantly, he has to think differently. Turles will come out of this time chamber a different person. A few days later, the Cell games begin. Everybody shows up. Goku and Gohan are still in Super Saiyan. Vegeta hasn't been seen in a few days, but he shows up too. And there's also Turles who hasn't shown up in a few days. Looking content and confident. Goku can tell that he hasn't mastered Super Saiyan because he's not in the same form. Or maybe he's just trying to hide it, but that doesn't seem like him. Turles would have shown it off by now if he could use it like that. So maybe he does have a power that he's hiding and he just can't use it right now. Cell is glad to see everyone there. It's going to be interesting to fight them, especially because no one's fought Cell yet, vice versa too. Well, of course, Cell does know all their moves and their styles of fighting, so he's at an advantage regardless. But this group, they don't know anything about Cell just yet, besides the fact that he has their abilities and has their ki for some reason. And the former they just theorize, they still don't really know much about him. Now, Cell does have some of Turles' DNA, gathering it from after he came to Earth. By the time the drones arrived to the fight between Turles and Goku, it was already too late and the fight was basically over, thanks to how quick Goku made it. He gathered some of Turles' DNA, but he still really knows nothing of Turles or his techniques, since the drones got there so late and basically missed the entire explanation of who he is and why he was on Earth in the first place. But it's also worth noting that Cell doesn't have the DNA of Frieza and King Cold. So, having the DNA of Turles, as well as some data from the Tree of Might itself, that kinda compensated for that lack of Frieza and Cold DNA. But other than that, he has no clue of who Turles actually is, outside of the data that androids 19 and 20 gathered not too long ago. And Goku's the first one to step up against Cell, asking about this too. They still really have no clue who Cell is, and he wants to figure it out before he fights him. They've only theorized that he has their powers for some reason, and that he's some sort of other android. Well, before their fight, he'll at least give them an explanation of who he is. Besides, if they're gonna die here, they should know who killed them and why. He gives a brief explanation of who he is. He was made solely to kill Goku, but honestly, he doesn't really care about that too much. He more so just wants a fun fight. Maybe it's the genes of everyone within him, especially Goku. Maybe that's what's fueling him to be like this. Which makes him all the more curious about everyone's power, including that other guy Turles, the one person he actually doesn't have a lot of data on. Now, Goku and everyone else, he has a lot of data on. Of course, they've changed since he's last seen them, which is going to make this a lot more interesting, but he also does have an unknown here, besides the fact that he doesn't know where Goku's power currently lies. And Goku's pretty confident. He feels like he has an ace up his sleeve, but maybe he has more than he thought. Really, he's just thinking about Gohan defeating Cell, but he's curious of what power Turles has too. And that really pushed him to train in the time chamber. Ever since eating the fruit of the Tree of Might, Goku's known that Turles has been ahead of them. Something changed about him fundamentally, and Goku kept that in mind. Not that he's jealous or anything, or regrets not doing that for himself. No, it's just another motivation for him to push himself. Through his hard work and his mindset alone, he'll prove once more that he can surpass Turles. Turles' unique physiology is just another reason for Goku to keep training, another reason for him to grow stronger than he already was. Not that he needed another reason, it's Goku after all. But it's something that sticks in his mind, and this will be a good test of both their powers. Goku versus Cell begins, and it goes pretty much the same as normal. Not much really changes here, and I would say Goku is around the same strength as normal even with the later start for getting Super Saiyan and such. So he did start off weaker training for the androids because he didn't have Super Saiyan right off the bat, but he did have an extra training partner, so that made his base stronger, and I think by now it would balance out. So later start with Super Saiyan, but stronger to begin with, so it basically cancels out. PEMDAS. Or something like that. And for that reason the fight doesn't really go any differently. Except at the end. Goku does give up, and he's about to send Gohan in. But he's going to save Gohan as a final trump card because he knows that Gohan has that power within there. Turles, he doesn't really know about yet. And before he sends the next fighter in, he actually leaves the arena for a bit, going up to Turles and making a deal with him, a deal that no one else could hear. He says he'll let Turles go up next, but under two conditions. 1, Turles can't hold anything back. He has to use his full power. And 2, don't fight to the death. If Turles is losing, he has to give up and let Gohan go next. This does surprise Turles, but he accepts it. It's not really too unexpected that Gohan might have some power locked away. He still doesn't really know much about Gohan besides the fact that he's Goku's son and a hybrid Saiyan, and he is curious about seeing that power, but Turles still does want to fight first too, and he accepts these conditions. Besides, if he can't beat Cell here, he'll feel like he failed as a warrior. Although, judging by everyone's power, he could tell. He has surpassed Goku. And Cell's glad to see Turles stepping in the ring next. Again, he doesn't have much info about Turles. All he knows is that he has some sort of connection to Goku. And he does ask Turles, curious, are they related or something? The similarities in their looks are very obvious. Of course, Turles does have his own differences, but for the most part, he looks almost related to Goku. And Turles chuckles. He gets that a lot. But their only relation is the fact that they're both low-class warriors. Sure, maybe they're distant cousins or something. But as far as he knows, they share no blood. The only similar thing that's running through both of their veins is their Saiyan pride. And Turles is going to put that pride on full display. The two begin fighting, with Turles fighting in base first. Cell's pretty surprised that he's not going to transform, but Turles says he just needs to warm up first. And they can clearly tell he's grown stronger even just in base. Vegeta and Trunks can't believe it either. If all the Saiyans fought Turles here in base right now, Turles would beat them. His power in base is stronger than 4 of the other Saiyans combined: Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, and Trunks. But Vegeta's still confident. This is just his base form. Of course, they all have Super Saiyan, and it doesn't seem like Turles has that yet. And Cell questions that too. Does he not have Super Saiyan? With strength like this, surely he should have it, right? And Turles says he's sorry to disappoint, but no, he doesn't. And Turles is right. Cell's disappointed. So this is the extent of his power then. Well, not really. He said he doesn't have Super Saiyan, but that doesn't mean this is his full power. He tells him to watch closely. He begins powering up, surrounded by an aura that looks like a Super Saiyan aura, but is more fiery, and it's orange rather than golden. He figured this out in the time chamber. He had to reinvent himself. The power of the Tree of Might has always been coursing through his veins. He just needed to figure out a way to harness it, and use it for a transformation. He doesn't have Super Saiyan, and that's because he doesn't call this form Super Saiyan. It's definitely similar, but it's unique. That's why it took him so long to unlock. He had to unlock it differently. And strangely enough, whenever he uses this, he could feel the maliciousness coursing through his veins, that old maliciousness he once felt. Of course, that's not him anymore. But when using this form, it comes up. And it's what fuels him for battle. But he's able to tame it. He's able to draw power from it. He never unlocked this before because he lost sight of this part of himself. But he came to accept it. And he brought it back up. He tamed it. He made it his own. Turles may not be malicious anymore, but he derives the power from that. And he's honestly not too sure why. Little does he know, he's harnessing the power of Evil Saiyan and making it a new transformation. It's ingrained deep within him. And due to his unique circumstances, it gives him a new transformation. And it's not Evil Saiyan. No, it's essentially a version of Super Saiyan that's unique to him and him only. His hair is slightly longer. His eyes have turned a reddish color. And he bulks up a bit too. He has a slight red glow around him, but the aura of a Super Saiyan, although a bit more orange. Since this is the power derived from the Tree of Might, he doesn't call this Super Saiyan. He names it after the tree itself. This is his Mighty Saiyan form. This is Mighty Turles. He vanishes from sight, attacking Cell with such speed that Cell can't even keep up. Everyone else is stunned. Even Goku's a bit amazed. He knew Turles would be stronger, but not like that. But Goku remembers back to when they made their agreement a few minutes ago. Turles accepted it, but apologized to Goku, saying that Gohan wouldn't get a chance at all. And this must have been what he meant, but Goku thought he was just bluffing. He didn't think Turles was that strong, but maybe he is. Maybe he is strong enough to defeat Cell. Turles tells Cell that this has two downsides. For one, he can't fully tame it. The power is derived from maliciousness, and that's not who Turles is anymore. He needs to find perfect harmony with himself before he can use this form at its fullest. And on a similar note, the other downside is that it drains quickly. He's like a powerful star. He has a ton of energy, but he burns quickly. And in the time chamber, he actually experienced this once. His power burned out all at once, causing him immense pain and making him immobile for a few days. And with all the power it gave off, he almost destroyed the door of the time chamber, which would have locked him in there. Although this can work in his favor. If he can't defeat Cell as is, once he fully burns out, the power let off by that might be enough to kill Cell. Although Turles really doesn't want to do that because that's going to be painful for him. And Cell's invigorated by this. This is the power he wanted to see. He's being pushed here. Turles initially does defeat Cell, but not completely destroying him. He gives him another chance to keep fighting. It would be a shame to let this power go to waste. And he turns to Goku. Shouldn't they keep this guy alive? You know, his power could be fun to have as a rival. It's just like Goku did with Vegeta and Turles. But Goku yells out that Turles did not joke around here, but Turles smiles and starts laughing to himself. He was just joking. He reminds Kakarot. Unlike him, he's not that soft. He'd never do that, especially not in this form. After all, would he truly be mighty if he spared his opponents like this? And using all of his power, with a single blast, he eradicates Cell. But again, he uses all his power for this. The sheer energy from the blast is insane. It blows everybody back. And after the blast dissipates, there's not a single bit of Cell left. He's completely destroyed. And Turles is there, breathing heavily, holding his hands out, and back in base. He did want to avoid burning out after all, and the only way to really do that was to expel all the excess power that he had. He kinda does wonder what Cell would have been like if they left him alive. But he did tell Goku that he'd win this fight after all, and Turles wasn't gonna let Cell go. And this fight shows everybody a few things. One, Turles' training was successful, and he's gonna continue going down this path. As for Goku and Gohan, and Vegeta and Trunks for that matter, they can continue furthering Super Saiyan. Trunks of course departs back to his own timeline. Trunks is more than strong enough to defeat the androids on his own now. And he's prepared for Cell too. He thanks everyone for their help, going back home. And even though not everyone got a chance to fight Cell, it was still a good experience, and it taught them a lot of valuable things. Goku and Gohan now have their own path to go down. Vegeta's going to work on furthering himself too. And of course, Turles will continue to improve his power as well. We enter the 7-year time skip. Of course, over this time period, Turles will continue training so he can get control over the form that he just got. He actually trains with Goku a lot more, needing to find harmony with himself to further this power, and who better to ask than Goku, who's apparently done that with Super Saiyan already. So maybe it's kind of a similar case here, even though the forms are wholly different. Although, Goku is kind of preoccupied because he's also training Gohan. With Goku actually being around, he wants to actually see him unlock Super Saiyan 2. Well, he doesn't know what Gohan's about to unlock, but that's what it is. He saw it briefly in the time chamber, and Gohan never got a chance to fight in the Cell games. He knows that Gohan's on the cusp of something, and he wants to see it. Eventually, Gohan is able to ascend Super Saiyan, but it's still later than normal, probably a few months after, because he doesn't have the perfect catalyst for it. He has to unlock it through training. Naturally, this means Goku and Vegeta want to follow that afterwards, with Goku getting it after Gohan, then Vegeta following them. But Turles isn't going to get anything new here. He's mainly still trying to get control over his Mighty Saiyan form. Surprisingly enough, the more that he works with it, the more he realized that this isn't only superior to Super Saiyan, this might be superior to Super Saiyan 2. Although he still needs to make it 100% efficient, but if he can master this form, the power that he'll have could be amazing. But also much to his surprise, he sees that Gohan's actually on his level now with Super Saiyan 2, at least while Turles is uncontrolled at the moment. All the more reason to grow stronger because not only is someone on par with him, but it's a low-class hybrid Saiyan child. Turles is going to be the mightiest. But it's not like he spends all his time doing that. Of course, he does get more acclimated to Earth. He already was kind of acclimated to the group here and started enjoying life here. He acclimated a lot quicker than Vegeta. And he's enjoying life here too. During the time that he's not training, that desire for an opulent lifestyle is actually what fuels him to keep going as an Earthling, instead of just leaving the planet and going wherever he wants in space. Although it's not really a top priority right now, he does have the idea in the back of his mind that maybe he could bring the Tree of Might back somehow. He knows a good amount about it. And even better, the Tree of Might lives on within him. He was hoping he'd be able to find some remains of it where it once was, but of course that's been long healed. It's like the Tree of Might was never on Earth. So maybe he's going to have to try and synthesize his own Tree of Might, at least if he wants to do this. But he has no clue where to begin with that, especially because if anything, it would have to take his own DNA to actually make that. And this gives Turles a very interesting job, to say the least. Goku starts farming because Chi-Chi wants him to get a job and bring more money in. And this makes Turles think, what if he also became a farmer, but with trees instead? In an effort to breed his own Tree of Might, he could become a farmer. Plus, he can get money from this. He could be a lumberjack of sorts too. So, this is Turles' job, and this becomes his main source of income. Well, at least at first. With his desire for a more opulent lifestyle, there's another thing that Turles picks up on. From time to time, he explores cities, surprisingly being pretty extroverted and making connections with people. But he stumbles upon a really fun hobby that eventually becomes something that he could use to make more money. Now, a lot of Turles' life has been about taking risks, although mostly physical risk and stuff. But he finds out he could do the same with money here, right here on Earth, and he gets a rush from it too. Turles becomes a gambler. He's really loving life here on Earth now. He has a job that kinda does further his goals, although planning a new Tree of Might is a pipe dream. But on top of that, he has a hobby now, and he's becoming a lot more social with people, mainly the main cast. At the very least, he and Vegeta don't argue anymore, but they don't really talk either. Goku always thought that Turles could become a good rival, but he's actually kind of a friend now, if anything. And in the original scenario, I actually did put Turles in a relationship too. Now, don't expect me to cover this much because it's not really going to be a big part of the story. I'm essentially just doing it because I know people will be asking, and it's going to be kind of a reference to the original. But at some point over this time skip, there is a rare occasion where Bulma meets up with her sister, Tights, with Turles also getting to meet her too. And that's who he's going to be paired with in the scenario, just like the original. I feel like they go pretty well together. And funny enough, despite him and Vegeta not really being on good terms, this makes them brothers-in-law, assuming they're both legally married to their partners. Ironic, that kind of makes him a royal Saiyan then. Not that he cares about that, but he does find it kind of funny. But despite him and Vegeta being kind of separated, they both had very similar paths coming here to Earth. Both initially came to Earth around the same time, fought Goku, then ended up on Namek and fought Frieza, eventually coming back to Earth and assimilating, even now having families, and unlike Vegeta, Turles has a job too. Although this is a bit concerning for Turles because the Galactic Patrol still might be after him, and apparently Tights is pretty close with Jocko, even closer than Bulma is. He doesn't tell her that he's a wanted galactic criminal, and he simply just hides whenever Jocko comes to Earth, darting off to some casino or somewhere. Not because he doesn't have the power to fight the Galactic Patrol, he has more than enough strength. He just doesn't want to deal with that, especially because one of the patrolmen is his wife's friend. More of a reason for him to lay low. And as we get to the end of the time skip, Turles does continue working on Mighty Saiyan, and eventually does get a mastery over it, mainly thanks to help from Goku. Of course, controlling it is way harder than controlling regular Super Saiyan, especially because the mechanics of this form are different from Super Saiyan. He realized this in the time chamber, which is the whole reason he got it in the first place. but the form was derived from that latent maliciousness, and him making it his own. It makes him wonder, if he stayed evil, he probably would have been able to further this form, or maybe even get something completely different. But his nature and heart here, they're more unique than that. He might have been pure evil before, but now that's completely different. Even around the time that he unlocked this, he still did have a little bit of that within him, even though he was kind of a good guy. And that's what really makes it so hard to control here, the fact that he's been acclimated as an Earthling. What this form really is essentially a combination of Evil Saiyan and Super Saiyan. He can't use the two forms separately, which is also why it took him so long to unlock this, and why it's so hard to control in the first place. It's so strange because it's like the form's not really meant for him, even though it is his own unique form. So that's his main goal now. He needs to make this his own form. He's able to at least make it more efficient, but he could tell that this isn't true mastery over the form like he thought it was. True mastery is something else. It's a step further. It requires intense training for his body, his spirit, and his mind. There may be an evolution beyond this, but it's not going to be easy to unlock. But it really does make him wonder, if he kept that evil nature of his, would it be different? Would he be able to use these forms separately or something? Would he be able to control it better? Well, he doesn't worry about that. For now, he'll be essentially just channeling the power of the Tree of Might and Evil Saiyan through this unique Super Saiyan form of his. Now we're at the end of the time skip. While Gohan's not the focus here, I'm going to also mention that he does become the Saiyan and everything happens like normal. The Cell games did happen too, so Mr. Satan is still a world hero. As for everyone else, like I said, Vegeta's life kind of goes the same, Trunks is obviously still around, Goten's around as well, and Goku's around to raise him. There's not really a reason to cover everyone else's lives because really the biggest change here is the fact that Goku's alive. And with Goku being Goku, he just spends his time growing stronger. It is worth mentioning though, he probably won't unlock Super Saiyan 3 because he's not going to be up 24/7 training. But hey, at least this means King Kai gets to live. Although unfortunately, the only other really big change here is the fact that Android 18 and 17 are both dead. Blame Cell for that, not the group. Although I guess this does make something about the tournament easier because instead of having Android 18 there, Turles just replaces her slot. The roster for the tournament is exactly the same otherwise. And I want you guys to take a wild guess. Does the Buu Saga happen here, or do we get to avoid it again? I'll put the Jeopardy timer up on here somewhere. Okay, are your guesses in? The Buu Saga? It doesn't happen. Yay, get skipped again. For one, having Turles there makes the group stronger, and it makes it harder for Babidi and Dabur to stall. Pretty much everyone in the group would be stronger besides Goku, and that's only because Goku wasn't in Otherworld. As for Gohan, he had Goku around to grow stronger, and to keep him somewhat motivated. Vegeta has even more motivation here because both Goku and Turles are on Earth. And obviously Turles is Turles with everything we covered. I guess Piccolo's weaker because he didn't fuse with Kami, but other than that, that means Dabur and the rest of the minions are pretty easily defeated. Now, this would mean that Babidi got more energy from Gohan to start with, but he doesn't really have anything to do with it because he's not able to possess anybody else. You might think he'd be able to at least possess Turles or Vegeta, but no, I don't really see that happening here. Turles has completely reformed, and while he kinda does wonder what his power would be like if he became his old self, he's not gonna let Babidi control him. He's far too prideful for that, even if he will eventually break free of that control. And on top of that, he thinks it's kinda stupid to give in to that just for some power. He's already grown strong enough on his own, and he doesn't need anyone else to make him mightier. As for Vegeta, he's pretty content as is. With Goku being alive, he's gotten all the fights with Kakarot that he wanted, so he's content in that regard. So you might think that maybe his relationship with Turles would cause him to turn Majin. But I don't think that's going to affect it either. Again, they've had 7 years to basically get past that. And a lot of it thanks to Bulma and Tights. Because, once again, they're technically related now. They've put aside their differences a while ago. Sure, it's not like they're best friends or anything, but they coexist pretty peacefully. And Vegeta's accepted that Turles is ahead of them because of the Tree of Might. And while he could use this as an opportunity to get stronger and get above Turles too, it would be pretty hypocritical of him. Because in the past, he said Turles had to use a crutch to get stronger, and this would be kind of a crutch to get stronger too. At least in his eyes, in this scenario specifically. So, because of all that, Babidi is defeated pretty easily and isn't able to possess anyone. He actually is close to getting enough energy to revive Buu, but no one messes it up for the rest of the group. For what it's worth, we'll also briefly cover the tournament too. Once they all get back to the tournament, they all get reinstated because they didn't have anyone else anyways. So the tournament goes back to its initial format. As you'd probably guess too, Turles ends up winning the whole thing. And I'd say the final battle probably ends up being something like Gohan versus Turles, although it's not really a clear-cut battle. Turles is stronger than Gohan, but the really big reason that he wins is the fact that he has more skill and more experience. But other than that, I guess that's the end of the Buu Saga. And while we kinda did skip the Buu Saga, it does have its consequences. At least soon enough it will. Buu was never destroyed. His egg was contained by the Kais and taken back to their planet. Without his destruction, that means the seal on Moro is never broken either. Now, even if the seal were broken, it would take a while for him to get out of there. In the main story, he did need years to build back his magic after all, just to break out of there. Normally, this would mean Moro's not even influenced to even break out yet. He would just stay locked away, like he has for the past 10 million years. But being in the Galactic Patrol prison gives him something interesting. It gives him inmates that he's around. Of course, he's in very solitary confinement. He's not even near anybody. And while he doesn't have much magic, one thing that he can do at least is try and read the minds of others, trying to get any info from them. Of course, he's been doing this his entire time here, but only just now has he been hearing something interesting. Actually, he's heard of this a few years ago, and it's stuck with him. By reading the minds of the other prisoners, some of whom were part of the Frieza Force, or even other space criminals, they actually had some info about Turles. Especially with him being such a big target of the Galactic Patrol, rumors spread about him. He's pretty much their top priority at the moment. And when Moro learns about this, he wonders why. But as he looks more and more into it, he realizes why Turles is as strong as he is, and why he's such a big target in the first place. It's because of the Tree of Might. Something that Moro has heard rumors about in this time here, basically eavesdropping on others' minds. Now, of course, this doesn't really relate to the Buu Saga. This has been going on for years. But one thing that does relate to the Buu Saga is the fact that Moro feels something really strange after this, and he can tell something is amiss. With Buu's egg being secured by the Kais, it's almost like he feels the seal on him grow stronger. Shin and Kibito do their best to actually seal the egg even further, which, unbeknownst to them, makes the seal on Moro feel even more oppressive, because they're sealing someone who already sealed Moro. He wonders why this is, but it encourages him to try and look at different methods of getting out of here, and getting his strength back. And he starts wondering about that Tree of Might. Maybe he could do something with that, but it's going to be kind of tough in the condition he's in right now. It sticks with him, though. But keep this all in mind, because this is really going to change how that's going to go. Some years pass after the Buu Saga, and eventually we do get to Battle of Gods, which, for the most part, also goes pretty much the same. Well, at least everything leading up to it. Again, without Buu there, that actually does affect this arc, because Beerus isn't going to be as angry as normal. He's actually pretty content with the Earth food here. Although, the result of this is pretty much the same. They find out about the Super Saiyan God from Shenron, with Turles actually being part of the ritual, surprisingly enough. Now, Turles is actually the most impressive Saiyan for Beerus, because technically, Goku and Gohan are both weaker here. Gohan doesn't have Ultimate, and Goku never gets Super Saiyan 3, so the peak that he sees from all of them is Super Saiyan 2. At least for Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta. For Turles, he gets to see his Mighty Saiyan form. And that unique evolution interests him, but it's not really enough to pique his interest completely, thinking that Turles might be his rival. Although, for that reason, Turles is actually the focus of the ritual. But when they do the ritual on him, it doesn't really do anything. Did they do it wrong, or will it just not work on Turles? Well, they try again on Goku, and he ends up becoming the Super Saiyan God, fighting Beerus pretty much like normal. So they didn't do the ritual wrong, and it makes Turles wonder. First of all, that power that Goku's displaying, it's amazing. But also, why didn't the ritual work on him? The conclusion of Battle of Gods goes the same, and eventually Vegeta and Goku do end up on Beerus' planet. Turles doesn't go along though, because it seems like for some reason, he doesn't have the potential to become a Super Saiyan God. And no one has a clue why, especially because Turles was part of the ritual and it ended up working with him in it. But for some reason it didn't work with him being the focus of it. At least at first, they think that's the case. Eventually when Goku and Vegeta do leave for Beerus' planet, Turles starts working on himself more, training even harder than he did during the Cell Saga. There's something he's missing, and very slowly, he feels something strange within him. Some power deep within him that he wants to try and unlock. He has no clue of what it is. Could it be related to the Super Saiyan God? Is it something completely different? There's only going to be one way to find out. Unbeknownst to Turles, the ritual did actually unlock something within him. But much like the Super Saiyan form, Turles is a unique case, so he has to go about this his own way. But he's beginning to see. The ritual wasn't useless. The ritual did something. He just never noticed. Obviously, Turles wants to get to Beerus' planet, because that way he can get even better training. But he still doesn't know what he's doing and how to even impress Beerus like that. Obviously, he continues his normal training on Earth. And even gets a little bit of combat because he faces the Frieza Force when they try to get the Dragon Balls, stopping them pretty easily and stopping Resurrection F, thankfully. But still, none of this is really going to help him with his main goal. We even get to the Universe X tournament, and this still isn't really a big deal. One thing Turles does have to actually show off here is the fact that he can use Godly Ki now, since at the very least, the ritual seemed to unlock that for him. And he channels that as a Mighty Saiyan, which makes him incredibly powerful. But still, he's being surpassed by Goku and Vegeta, who have gotten Super Saiyan Blue by now, and have gotten a much better control in it, since it kinda has been a while. So, even with Turles' great power, it's still not going to match Goku and Vegeta's. Universe 7 does win this tournament, with the team being pretty much the same, except Turles replaces Buu. The order for the tournament is probably going to be different too, and obviously the fights will be different, but it's not really going to be worth covering because in the end, the outcome is pretty much the same. Goku versus Hit, with Goku showing off Blue Kaioken. And Turles recognizes Kaioken as well, the same power he fought against long ago. And he can't believe how much these two are growing. And seeing Goku use Kaioken makes Turles wonder. Maybe he has to reinvent himself. Goku went back to his roots. He would have never thought to see Goku use Kaioken again, but he went back to get that. He reinvented it. He made it something new. And Turles is known for a while. With this form, he's had to reinvent himself. There's always been some sort of higher power that he couldn't access. He knew it was in there, and even though he has perfect control over Mighty Saiyan right now, he knows this isn't the full potential of it. Even now, combined with Godly Ki, he knows he could still go beyond this. Like, the form hasn't even changed, it's just imbued with Godly Ki now. This isn't a separate form, it's like Goku using Super Saiyan with Godly Ki at the same time. Turles has to figure out something soon, or he's going to be left behind. Let's shift over to the future timeline for a bit. Trunks' story goes pretty much like normal. He does wonder where Turles is, but never bothers to search for him because he has no clue of where he could be, and it's probably not really that important, so he doesn't worry about it. But everything in his timeline continues exactly the same. The androids are gone, Cell's been stopped, and he even encounters Deborah and Bobbity. And this here does actually cause a big change. With the Universe X tournament going pretty much like normal, and the fact that there's time travel in the first place, Goku Black does still appear with Zamasu. Although, this is where things diverge a little bit more. At least in the manga, it's implied that Goku Black didn't attack right away after the Buu Saga stuff. So, before Goku Black even faces Trunks, somebody else arrives on Earth that catches his eye. He wonders if this is related to Bobbity at all, but it isn't. So, he goes to where he senses that power. He contacts Zamasu, and Zamasu teleports to the planet too. A spaceship draws close to Earth, and a very familiar looking face steps off, confusing Goku Black and Zamasu because it looks like Goku. But Goku's dead in this timeline, and that doesn't make sense. He shouldn't be here. Also, why is he wearing that? The person that they're looking at, it's future Turles, donning his old armor again too. After all this time, he finally felt something strong on Earth. When he sensed Trunks fighting Deborah, that's what tipped him off. But he encountered this instead, seeing what appears to be Kakarot. But something's off about Kakarot. He's changed. The two Goku doppelgangers stare each other down, confused as to who the other is. But Turles can tell by this guy's demeanor and everything. He's not Kakarot, just a simple look-alike. He asks if they can kindly show him where Kakarot is because that's the reason he came back here in the first place. He sensed a strong power and he's been waiting to come back, waiting for some sort of interesting battle. What, does he mean Goku? Goku's long gone. And this interests the two of them too. Who is this mortal? He feels different than the others in terms of his ki. Something's off about him. But Goku Black sees this as a good opportunity, a way to test his powers before fighting Trunks. He just seems to be an average Saiyan. They just weren't aware that others were alive, so it's a little bit surprising, but they're not concerned. If Turles wants to fight, they could fight right now. But Turles says nah. He's gonna look for Kakarot. These two seem way too weak to be interesting. He turns back to his ship, but obviously it's not gonna work like that, especially after taunting Goku Black with that comment. Goku Black launches towards Turles, with Turles reacting quickly and countering. This guy has a little bit more power than he assumed, but he still is too weak. Turles grabs Goku Black by the neck and slams him into the ground. He says he'll ask one more time, where's Kakarot? That power he sensed before must have been Kakarot. After all these years, he finally gets to fight a strong opponent. But these two want to tell him that Kakarot's not here? What did they do with him? They have to be connected somehow, especially with this look-alike. And seeing Goku Black, he realizes it's not just some other low-class Saiyan that looks like Kakarot, he just looks exactly like Kakarot. He doesn't know what's going on here, but he's not too fond of it. And if these two are going to keep getting in his way, he'll just kill them. While holding on to Goku Black, the ground below him erupts, with Goku Black incinerated by an attack from Turles. Turles then quickly whips himself around, throwing a blast at Zamasu that seemingly incinerates him completely too. But then Turles senses something else. It feels like that power he felt before. With these two, he couldn't actually feel their power. Not until he fought Goku Black at least. But the person he's sensing now, it's Trunks, the one he sensed before. Not realizing that it is Trunks because he thought it might have just been Kakarot. He felt this far out in space and thought maybe there's some sort of interesting opponent over here. Then realizing that he was actually heading towards Earth, so that's who he assumes it was. But surprisingly, it's someone he doesn't recognize. It's Trunks. Turles basically asked the same questions, wondering where Goku is. He's been waiting so long for another good fight against him. All this time in space, he's picked up on a couple of different new abilities alongside the power from the Tree of Might. Because planting more Trees of Might is basically all he's been doing out in space. He and Trunks fight, and Trunks does lose, but he's able to make it away from there. And amidst that, Zamasu does regenerate and leaves Earth. Did that really just happen? Goku Black died just like that? After Black roped him into this in the first place. But if he was that weak, he must be useless for the Zero Mortals plan. Besides, Zamasu is immortal, so even if he fights stronger opponents like that, he'll just live. And the best part is, that Saiyan, whoever he was, he doesn't seem to realize Zamasu is still alive. But Turles isn't going to stop that easily. He is about to track Trunks down, but then Zamasu tries to sneak attack him. Of course, this doesn't really do anything, and Turles is able to find out that he's immortal, with Zamasu teleporting way out to space, trying to formulate a new plan. Turles will come back to this planet eventually, especially to fight that other guy who appears to be a Saiyan, using what appears to be a Super Saiyan transformation too, hearing from Trunks that that's what he's using. For now, he'll search for that green guy with the big ears. That guy's going to be a lot more annoying than the Saiyan on Earth. Plus, Turles does have other trees to grow. Obviously, Trunks realized that that was Turles too, so that answers his question of where Turles was in this timeline. Eventually, he's able to return to the past, and it's actually a lot better for him. Plus, a lot sooner too. Earth isn't in ruin here, even though it is under threat. It still does take a lot of time for Bulma to get fuel for the time machine, but at least they're not being attacked here while it happens. She works as quickly as possible because they don't know what's going on in the first place. The worst part is, Trunks doesn't even know about Goku Black and Zamasu. He didn't even see them. But when Bulma hears it's Turles, she's pretty concerned, after hearing all about him from Goku and seeing him on Namek too. But it's so strange to her because from what Trunks told her, Turles was good in the present timeline. Of course, his life went very differently there, so that definitely explains it. But they never even realized that he could be their next threat. So Trunks returns to the present. And without Goku Black chasing him down, they go back to the future pretty much right away. And no one here hears about Zamasu or Goku Black either because Trunks doesn't know about it. Trunks returns to the future with Goku, Vegeta, and Turles. This is probably overkill too, because they assume that the Turles in this timeline probably isn't too strong. Yeah, maybe he's strong for Trunks, but with him just being out in space, there's no way he could be that powerful. And while Trunks was gone, Turles was trying to track down Zamasu again, but couldn't find him. Zamasu is biding his time right now, and we'll be seeing more of him eventually. But future Turles eventually does sense powers arrive back on Earth. And it's not just that Super Saiyan he fought before, he senses multiple people there, so he heads back for Earth. He was going to try and find that green guy and ask what really happened with Goku, and also try and fight him because he seemed interesting. But when Turles gets back on Earth, he has a much better surprise for himself. He sees Kakarot, he sees Vegeta, he sees himself. What is this? Why is there another version of him here? And why is he dressed like that? He eyes down the present version of Turles. They each bear the same scar on their arm. The energy he has, it feels very similar to his. Not completely, but similar enough. There's no doubt about it. This is him, but he has no clue of how he got here. Turles analyzes his future self. This is a version of him that never went back to Earth. This is what he would have been like if he did that. And he knows exactly what the other Turles has been up to. Asking outright, did he ever plant more trees of might? Future Turles smirks. Of course he did. That's all he's been doing out in space. Just like Turles thought. That's what he aimed to do if he stayed out in space. Going back to Earth obviously changed these plans. But this is a Turles who remained evil, with no Goku or anyone to influence him, and more importantly, no one to draw him to Earth in the first place. It greatly changed the outcome of his life. The only two people he ever sensed on Earth were future Gohan and future Trunks, but it was never enough to entice him to come there, and by the time he even sensed those powers, of them going Super Saiyan, it was far too late for him to even be interested. In the present timeline, Trunks showed up on Earth not too long after Namek, so a Super Saiyan appeared pretty soon, but in this timeline, a Super Saiyan didn't appear for a while, and Turles had no reason to go back to Earth. Because by the time the first Super Saiyan appeared, that being Gohan, Turles was already so strong that he didn't care to go to Earth to find anyone there. And he has sensed Trunks' power flare up here and there, you know, against the androids, against Cell, but it was never anything interesting, until he fought Deborah. An all-out battle where he showed his true power, where he got Super Saiyan 2, and that's what really enticed Turles to come to Earth for the first time in this timeline. Decades after Turles came to Earth in the present timeline, and that's the reason there's a divergence between the two of them. It's Trunks. Unknowingly, him traveling to the past, that's the biggest influence on Turles. Him splitting the timelines, that's what made Turles become what he is today, or at least that's one of the big contributing factors to that. We could at least say Trunks was the catalyst there. And this Turles, he never had that. And if anyone's going to fight this other Turles, it's going to be the main Turles. He powers up, going into Mighty Saiyan, asking the other Turles to use his true power. Surely he has this by now. Future Turles says he doesn't. No, he's unlocked something far different. But he could sense the Tree of Might's power coursing through the veins of that other Turles, the one from the present timeline. The two of them are similar, and he wonders where they diverged. But this one from the future, he's purely powered by the Tree of Might, not to mention his evil nature. An ominous red aura surrounds him. The ground cracks below his feet as he floats up into the air. His hair grows longer, but not much else changes beyond that. Unlike the present Turles, he was completely uninhibited by his own nature. He remained evil, and he still is evil. Actually, pure evil. It did take him a long time to find another seed for the Tree of Might and start planting more, but he's had so many fruits by now, especially considering this is the future, nearly 2 decades ahead of the main timeline. And with everything that's gone differently with him, this is the culmination of all of that. This is his strongest power. He's become the legendary Evil Saiyan. That's what the form is, but he doesn't actually call it that. This is just his full power in his eyes. And Present Turles kind of chuckles at this. It's like looking into a mirror. He's always wondered what he would have been like if he never went to Earth, never became the person he is today. But he's got his answer. This is the exact answer he was looking for. And that power that his future self is using, that's probably what he was looking for. The power that was latent within him, but something he couldn't access due to his nature. The two begin fighting, and much to Turles' surprise, he loses to his future self. Pretty easily, in fact. Even with Godly Ki in his Mighty Saiyan form, it's still not enough somehow. This is more than they expected. Goku and Vegeta jump into the fight too, showing off their full strength. And they're actually able to contend pretty well together. But still, this is concerning. The fact that future Turles is on this level, fighting 2 Super Saiyan Blues at once. And future Turles is absolutely elated. This is more than he could have ever hoped for. He doesn't know what that blue-haired form is, but he's glad to finally fight Kakarot again at his full strength. And consider this a rematch. Unlike their first battle on Earth, he's going to win this one, and he's going to kill Kakarot. He doesn't know where Kakarot was hiding before, but that doesn't matter now. Turles also tries to get back in the fight, but he can't really do too much. Especially because when he tries to fight his future self, he's targeted by his future self. Especially because future Turles wants to fight him one-on-one again. He still doesn't know where this other version of himself came from. But what better way to prove his might than to kill that other Turles? There only can be one after all. That guy's direct competition. And he does want to see more of that golden-haired form that he was using. It's different from the one that Trunks had. For now, he just faces Goku and Vegeta. And Turles is completely dumbfounded. Not only is he fighting a future version of himself, but he's losing. He lost so easily. He can't do anything here. For the past year or so, he's felt like he's been falling behind Goku and Vegeta. And this is more proof of that. He can't do anything here. They're just handling the battle. Despite everything he's done before, all the things he's accomplished, now, he's nothing. He's not doing anything. He can't even defeat himself. What kind of Saiyan is he? A red aura then flares up around Goku. Blue Kaioken, with future Turles recognizing this as well. It's been decades since he's fought Goku, of course. And fought alongside Goku against Frieza. That's the first time he's seen a familiar power in this fight. Goku takes future Turles on one-on-one by using Blue Kaioken, with Vegeta very briefly leaving the battle, going over to Turles. He asks Turles why he's sitting around. Get back into the fight. Is he really giving up that easily? And Turles says he does want to fight. He really does want to win here. But he knows the smartest option right now is to sit back and let them handle it. He's going to get in their way. The important thing now is protecting Trunks. Clearly, Turles doesn't have the power to do that right now, nor the willpower. But Vegeta grabs onto Turles' shirt, pulling him up and yelling in his face. That's not how a Saiyan should act. That's not how he should act. And while it seems like Vegeta's angry at Turles, Trunks could pretty easily tell. He's trying to motivate Turles. It's so surprising considering the last time you saw these two, they absolutely hated each other. And Vegeta's way of interacting with people is strange to say the least, but Trunks could easily tell what this is. As Turles watches Goku fight future Turles, Vegeta asks him a question. Is he really the mighty Saiyan he claims to be if he can't even beat himself? It's exactly the same thing that Turles was thinking to himself just now. It's like Vegeta read his mind. And even if they can't win here, it's at least worth the battle. Who cares about him getting in the way? It's better than him sitting back and doing nothing. Where's that pride of his, that desire for strength? Maybe he's grown complacent. Maybe that's why he's falling behind. He hasn't had a true battle in so long, something that's really challenging him. And this is the perfect opportunity for that. If Turles wants to reinvent himself, if Turles wants to catch up to him and Kakarot, Vegeta says he has to do this. The only way to improve himself is to defeat himself. And if he can't overcome that, he's always going to be stuck behind. It's now or never. It's time to display that power that he has, that willpower to win. And you know, Vegeta's right. He never would have thought Vegeta of all people would be giving him a pep talk, pushing him to go forward. And he thanks Vegeta. He goes back into Mighty Saiyan. He can't believe he didn't see it before. He can't believe he gave up that easily here. He's had these feelings of doubt for so long, but not any longer. This is the way to overcome it. This is the way to improve himself. A red glow starts bubbling around Turles. Different from his usual aura, he jumps back into the fight, knowing he's on the verge of something new, a new revelation of sorts. And future Turles is glad to see him back in the fight, but reminds his present self, he's not going to go easy here. Future Turles is loving all of this. He has so much power, and he's fighting gods now. Nothing affects him like normal mortals anymore. He barely qualifies as one. He's more than a mortal, more than a Saiyan, and he might not be an actual god, but he's pretty damn close. The power of the Tree of Might makes him this strong. It makes him brush off all their attacks like it's nothing. He can even survive in the vacuum of space. The stage that he's reached right now, it's an evolution no Saiyan nor any other mortal can achieve. Only him and him alone. Even his other counterpart, wherever he's from and whatever his origin is. Even he's held back by something. But as he mentions this to Goku and Vegeta, he looks back at the other version of Turles, the good one. He can sense a strange power emanating from him, a very familiar one in fact. Turles tells his future self that he's right. He can unlock that power. Something was holding him back. He kinda knew this all along but didn't really know how to work around it. The power that he got from the fruit of the Tree of Might, it was in there. It was dormant. He did channel it through Mighty Saiyan somewhat, but not completely. This future version of himself, his evil nature allows him to achieve this fully. With ease too. Plus, there's also the fact that he had a bunch of other fruits from the Tree of Might. But still, the present version of Turles has this reserve of power, and he's been going about it the wrong way this entire time. He's long accepted by now that he's not the same person he once was. By all accounts, he's a good person. Especially faced with his future self, he could see this very clearly. And everything Vegeta just told him, he's right. If Turles can't defeat himself here, what kind of Saiyan is he? He's not truly as mighty as he once thought. Nothing's been holding him back from unlocking this power. Nothing physically, nothing genetically. Although, mentally he was holding himself back, and he didn't even realize it. But seeing his future self, it gives him a realization. His future self has embraced that evil, made it a part of him. He's embraced who he is, and he fully accepts it, using that to harness his power. Turles simply has to do the same thing, embrace who he is now. Channel the willpower within him to be what he wants to be. The desire to evolve in this battle, the desire to defeat himself, that all plays into it too. Shockingly enough, it wasn't Goku that gave him this revelation, it was Vegeta, the person he used to hate. And that's exactly what helped tip the scales too. He thanks his future self, and thanks Vegeta. He's finally realized what to do here. The red aura around him expands even further, growing even more intense. All those reserves of power within him, they get pushed out, with a godly flair to it too. There's a pillar of red light, and slowly it compresses into a thin beam, and then vanishes. All that's left behind is a crater where Turles was once standing. But Vegeta looks up chuckling to himself, with Goku then noticing it too. Trunks is right below Turles and can't believe what he's seeing. All three seem pretty shocked and happy about this, but then Vegeta looks over at the future Turles, getting even happier when he sees the expression on his face. Future Turles has an expression of fear.
He can't believe what he's seeing. Turles floats above them, looking dramatically different. The scar that wraps around his arm going to his heart, it's glowing as aura dissipates off of it. His hair's grown longer. He's grown in size as well. This is the evolution Turles has been looking for. This is what he calls the pinnacle of might, otherwise known as the legendary Mighty Saiyan. This is him fully harnessing his power. Essentially, it's the power of Super Saiyan, combined with the full potential of Evil Saiyan, harnessed by Turles and made to his own power, rather than an evil form like the future version of himself has. God Ki also acts as a puzzle piece to this, fitting it all together, making this form a godly one as well. Future Turles is still very confused about all of this. He still doesn't realize that Trunks time traveled, and he wonders what that big-eared green guy has to do with this too. This catches their attention because they don't know who he's talking about. Piccolo? Goku says he should be dead here, right? Future Turles has no clue, but it doesn't matter thinking about that now. He's more so focused on what's right in front of him. Another version of himself that seems to be much stronger than he is too, with a completely different form. That look of fear on Future Turles' face, it slowly goes away, turning back into a smile. Who cares about fighting Kakarot right now? This is even better. Fighting himself, a different version of himself with more power. This is what he wanted to see all along. Without exchanging any words, the two Mighty Saiyans launch towards each other and clash. Future Turles, the one embracing his evil side, the one who never came to Earth, the one who grew through the Tree of Might, versus present Turles, the good one, the one who went to Earth, the one who became allies with all of these people, the one who became friends with all these people, even having a family now, technically even being related to Vegeta in a sense. And sure, he does have the power of the Tree of Might coursing through his veins, but he didn't further unlock its power by eating more fruits. He did so by actually training, through hard work, just like Goku did, something his future self could never understand. Turles tries to get a hang of his new power, even accidentally launching his future self into space. It looks like he doesn't know his strength right now, but he flies up into the atmosphere, testing out what his future self said. Strange, it does seem like he can survive out here. Future Turles asks how it feels. They both have the same thing running through their veins right now. That's what allows them to fight out here. That's what allows them to be so great right now. Those other Saiyans on Earth, they'll never understand this. And it makes him wonder, why is Turles like this? Why is he not looking for more power through the Tree of Might? He can grow so much stronger if he just embraces that side of him. But Turles says his future self is completely wrong. That's not how he gained this power. The exact opposite, actually. Sure, it did allow him to grow strong, but imagine if that future Turles went down the same path, especially with the extra years he has, because they are in the future after all. He can consume as many fruits from the Tree of Might as he wants. If he eats too many too quickly, of course that'll just kill him, but clearly this guy knows how to use the Tree of Might. It's him after all. And he's pushing his limits as much as possible with it. Present Turles even considered growing a Tree of Might on Earth again, trying to cultivate one, but he gave up that dream a while ago. Because he's realized by now, he's not going to grow truly stronger like that. Sure, it can be used as a crutch to grow stronger. And in a way, he's always using it like that because it's part of him now. But he doesn't consider it a crutch, or some sort of cheat code or whatever. Because while he does have the power of it in him, he's made it his own by now. He's continuing to grow, through hard work only. Outside of the Super Saiyan God ritual, every ounce of power he's gained since the Tree of Might, it's been through his own work. And without that, his future self is never going to grow the same way. The two battle out in space, but it becomes very clear very quickly. Present Turles is exactly right. Here, he claims victory. Charging ki around his hand, piercing it right through his future self's chest. Right through the scar that Goku gave him before. He doesn't necessarily take joy in this. He loves the thrill of battle. But at the end of the day, he still is killing another version of himself. And it's a pity to see that he never turned out the same way as him. Turles is not only embracing his current self in this battle, but he's completely rejecting his past self. In a sense, killing that past version of him, that evil conqueror obsessed with power. Physically and figuratively killing him. That's not who he is anymore. And while this battle was fun, Turles takes solace in the fact that he's finally found inner peace. That harmony between his mental and his physical strength, that's what allowed him to evolve here. And he thanks his future self for that. Future Turles weakly chuckles. How fitting. Dying to himself. Well done. He wouldn't have wanted to have it any other way. In a sense, it's like he didn't lose at all. It was fun, and he wouldn't have wanted to die to anyone else. Turles charges a blast to finish him off. His future self, his strength is magnificent. He'll never forget him for as long as he lives. He blasts Future Turles, killing him, powering down and descending back to the planet. It seems like the future is thankfully saved here. Trunks can't believe all that he's missed. Goku and Vegeta have become gods, and then Turles he's become, well, whatever this is. But now it seems like he has nothing to worry about at least. He thanks everyone for their help, and they thank him. It truly was a great experience, and Vegeta's glad to see what kind of warrior Trunks has become. Even though he couldn't defeat that opponent, he tells Trunks to never forget the fact that he actually trained for his power. That other Turles, as far as Vegeta's concerned, he's a fraud. And Turles agrees with this too, and he's glad to have had this opportunity. They return to the present. So with Turles gone, Trunks' future's safe, right? Well, it should be. Although, there is one loose end. Zamasu is still around. Thankfully for Trunks though, he's not in that timeline anymore.
Now, during the fight with future Turles, Zamasu was watching over. He did come to Earth and covertly watched everybody. As much as he wants to destroy everything here, especially Trunks for time traveling, he can't do that just yet. Of course, Goku Black had told him about these threats, but now he gets to see them firsthand. He never got to see them firsthand because this is the Zamasu from Trunks' timeline. He never saw Goku and Vegeta in Super Saiyan Blue, he never saw Turles with the Mighty Saiyan form or as the pinnacle of might, and he didn't even consider the fact that Trunks would just travel to the past again to get some help. Plus, now without Goku Black, he's lost his muscle. But still, he's immortal. Should he continue this plan, or should he try something else? Maybe it's not too late to go back. But if anything, seeing this all disgusted him even further. It invigorates him and makes him want to do this even more. But clearly, Goku Black was a weak link. He doesn't need that. But Goku Black was good for one thing. He gave Zamasu a really good idea. After watching this battle, Zamasu uses the time ring to go to the present. Wasting no time, he goes to Universe 10, the sacred world of Kai. He kills Gowasu, then staring his present self in the eye. Of course, present Zamasu is completely taken aback. This Zamasu hasn't even met Goku yet, and he is hesitant after all. But then again, he's no different from the future version of himself. This is what future Zamasu saw when Goku Black killed Gowasu in his timeline. But to make things even better here, Zamasu is just seeing himself doing it. Essentially, he's pulling what Goku Black did to him, trying to draw another Zamasu into his plan. And given the fact that he is still Zamasu, it works. Probably easier than it was for Goku Black. Especially because this Zamasu, he did watch the Universe 6 tournament on GodTube. He saw what Goku was doing, what Hit was doing controlling time. Together, these two Zamasus will stop these mortals from acting like that. And with the time ring, it won't be a big deal. Of course, the other gods of destruction will be an issue, but future Zamasu does have a way around. He didn't do this immediately without thinking. If they go to get the Super Dragon Balls now, in this timeline at least, it's going to be tough because first of all, they haven't restored yet. It hasn't been a full year since they were using the Universe 6 tournament because this arc did happen a little bit earlier. But who cares? They have time rings. And with the God of Destruction dying here, they're going to have to work quick because this timeline might be on high alert. But future Zamasu knew that he'd have to come to this timeline regardless eventually, whether before destroying Trunks' timeline or after. But they have an immaculate idea, one that lets them be Zamasu, but still powerful. They get another set of Super Dragon Balls, wishing for the second Zamasu to be immortal. But that's not it. No, this just makes both of them immortal, but what's the use in being immortal if they're not going to have the power behind it? And they could steal someone else's body, but clearly that didn't work for Goku Black. Also, why take a mortal's body when they could have their own godly body? And there's a really simple way to do this, and they don't even need a wish for it. Future Zamasu simply takes off one of his earrings, giving it to the other Zamasu who puts it on. This way they'll work in complete harmony. They'll be immortal, unlike if he were to do this with Goku Black. But still, he's going to be much stronger than before. Sure, not as strong as he would be if he fused with Goku Black, but what better person to fuse with than yourself? It's still a highly compatible fusion. And the two of them merge into an immortal fused Zamasu. Realistically, this Zamasu would look different. But I love this design, and it's easier to go with this, so we'll stick with it. The fusion of future Zamasu and past Zamasu, both immortal. Now part of a truly divine fusion, one that is also immortal. And not partially, fully immortal, because both of its parts were immortal. And while the Gods of Destruction could be an issue, with this type of power and speed, he has a really good idea of what to do here. Zamasu makes quick work, teleporting around the different universes. He's striking as quickly as possible. One by one, the Kais in all of the universes fall. Thankfully, it seems like Zeno hasn't noticed yet, or doesn't care for some reason. Zamasu isn't too sure, and he knows he's not going to do anything against Zeno. At least not like this. If Zeno does end up erasing everything, then so be it. But right now, Zamasu's able to do whatever he wants. All the Kais die, and all the Gods of Destruction die with them, with the angels also going dormant. And Zamasu goes for his first target, Universe 7. This all happens within minutes, maybe even just seconds. It's such a well-calculated and executed plan. He's able to do this seamlessly. Now, he doesn't know what other strong mortals are out there, but he knows in Universe 7, there's some particularly interesting ones. So, he simply goes to Earth first, and without hesitation, launches a blast that pierces right through its core. On Earth, everyone looks up and sees a pillar of light, but before anyone can even act, it's already too late. The planet collapses in on itself. Unluckily for everybody, no one was on Beerus' planet at the time. They don't even realize that Beerus has been killed too. And because of that, no one on Earth survives. It's completely decimated. Even though there's multiple people here who can survive a blast like that, they can't survive the vacuum of space. But Zamasu did forget one key thing. He did realize that they'd all die out in space, but he didn't get to see the full fight between the two versions of Turles. He didn't realize that they could actually live out in space. Seeing Earth destroyed, he moves on to the rest of Universe 7, trying to look around for any other strong mortals. But in the debris field left behind by Earth's explosion, someone floats there. It's Turles. He's actually pretty unscathed from all this. A planet exploding won't really do much to him. It's so strange, even in base he's able to survive out in space. Did that really just happen? It feels like a nightmare of sorts, but no, this is reality. He flies away from Earth, or at least where it once was, and just sees nothing left behind but dust. Everyone's gone. This is real, and it's all setting in. No one was even on Beerus' planet at the time, so not even they would have been spared. Now that he thinks about it, where is Beerus, and Whis for that matter? They were probably even on Earth at the time, enjoying the food here, but why would they not be out in space too? They could have survived that. And then it slowly starts to hit Turles even more. All of his friends, all of his allies, Tights, everybody. It all starts rushing in. He realizes that they're gone for good. Even Earth's Dragon Balls are gone too. Who in the hell did this? Actually, maybe he can go to Namek. That's his last hope here. It's not completely set in stone. He could bring everyone back. He just needs to get to Namek somehow. Bring Earth back and the set of Dragon Balls on Earth too. He doesn't even realize that Namek's Dragon Balls have been upgraded. And they could just revive everyone themselves. He needs to get there quickly because whatever's happening, it's probably going to target Namek too. He senses a power nearby though. And he hears a voice talking to him telepathically. It seems he didn't actually kill everybody here. Looks like he was a little too hasty with destroying Earth. He completely forgot. This guy could survive out in space. He remembered that the future counterpart of Turles could, but not this one too. It slipped his mind. Floating there where Earth once was, he sees fused Zamasu. Wait, a green guy with big ears. Is that the guy that future Turles was talking about? Who is he? And was he responsible for this? And Zamasu thinks to himself, maybe he will need a little bit more power for this. He'll have to find another way to defeat this guy. Turles fully powers up, and the two begin fighting. But the fight doesn't really go anywhere. It seems like Zamasu can't do anything to hurt Turles because of his power. And as for Turles, he could obviously hurt Zamasu, but he's not going to be able to kill him because he's fully immortal. This does give Zamasu some more info though. He can see that he's probably going to need a little bit more power to actually defeat Turles. He could go and get the Super Dragon Balls for himself and maybe wish for power that way, but he can't let Turles get out of his sight. After all, to get the Super Dragon Balls, he's going to need to leave him here. Now Zamasu didn't expect this. He thought he'd just be able to kill everyone in one shot. And while he's incredibly powerful as a fusion right now, it's still not going to be enough to fight someone like Turles. He'll need to get more creative with killing him. He tells Turles to stay put for a bit. Then attempted to use magic on him, trying to seal him away. For a brief moment, Turles feels nothing, and then he has a pretty violent reaction, and it's convincing too. Floating there in the nothingness of space, looking like he's not able to move at all. It seems the seal was successful. Zamasu needs more power, so he's going to need to leave for a bit, but he'll see Turles soon enough. Although, how could he get this power? The other Super Dragon Balls might be the best option. As much as he hates to do it, he's probably going to have to just use them again. And he looks at Turles one last time before he leaves. Such a primitive form. He'll take joy in killing Turles. Sure, he could just simply wish away any threats that he has, but he'd rather personally deal with them. Besides, what kind of god is he if he can't personally enforce his own law? The Saiyan that he's fighting, he's exactly like that one from the future that he saw, the one who killed Goku Black. They are the same person after all now that he's come to realize it. But they seem to have gone down different paths. Not that it matters to Zamasu though. Turles of course is infuriated, but he's glad. He has a reason to finally use this power again. This is for his friends, this is for his planet, for his wife, for everybody around him. He's surprisingly level-headed right now, and he does have a plan, but he plays it up for Zamasu. He tells him that he doesn't care about his immortality. He'll use so much power that it'll kill Zamasu regardless. And Zamasu laughs, saying it's ridiculous and useless. Look at him, he's stuck in place here. Zamasu already sealed him away. Sure, he may not have the raw power to defeat Turles, but he already has his own magic, and he'll have that raw power soon enough. And besides, he's immortal. But Turles tries to be as annoying as possible for Zamasu, and he plays it up too. He acts like he's even losing control of himself, but it's all an act. He just wants Zamasu off guard. And to Zamasu, it looks like Turles can't do anything at the moment. But Zamasu tells him to stay put. He'll be back soon enough. As Zamasu then vanishes from sight, Turles then easily breaks free of the seal. He was only acting like he was cornered, and clearly he wasn't. That seal wasn't going to be strong enough to hold him. But it was a good plan because now, Turles is alone to do whatever he wants, and Zamasu thinks that he's stuck in place like that. Now, he still is concerned because Zamasu is now going to get the Super Dragon Balls, it seems like. But if they continued fighting like that, he wouldn't have gotten anywhere anyways. However, now that he's alone, he does have a really good plan, and that's why he's so level-headed here. He thought of this and he thinks that it might be able to fix everything. All he needs to do is simply go to Namek and get the Dragon Balls there. And with Zamasu now gone from this universe, trying to get the Super Dragon Balls for himself, it's even better because that means Namek's completely free of him. But he has to work really quickly. Although, there is one issue, he doesn't really have a way to get to Namek right now. There's no spaceship for him, he can't teleport there, and he doesn't really know the direction. But he does hear a voice in his head. It's King Kai. King Kai's flipping out right now. And this is really strange to him. A few decades ago, he wouldn't have thought he would have been teaming up with someone like Turles. But now, he's the last hope not just for this universe, but for everything. Thankfully, Zamasu's plan was hasty and he was attacking the big targets. The Supreme Kais and Gods of Destruction, they're all dead. But the Kaiō weren't of any concern to him. And this is strange for King Kai because from what he knows, Zamasu started out as a North Kaiō too. But he tries to lighten the mood and tells Turles not to worry. Unlike him, he's a good North Kai. Now, he has no way of getting Turles directly to Namek, but he can point him in the right direction. And Turles says that's perfectly fine. King Kai makes him turn into the general direction and asks Turles if he's going to be able to get there. Sure, he has more than enough power. And this will be pretty fun for him. Intergalactic travel just using his power. This will be a fun test, and he thanks King Kai. Without him, everything would have been doomed. An intense aura then flares up around Turles as he vanishes. A streak of red light darts across the empty space. Within moments, he flies the entire distance to Namek, landing on the planet safely. Looks like he doesn't need a spaceship after all. But still, his time's limited. Naturally, with a power like that arriving to Namek, they are concerned, but then they see who it is. At first thinking it's that Goku guy, but then recognizing his outfit and everything. No, it's the other one that was with him. Well, he did fight Frieza too after all. So, right away they're not immediately suspicious. But then Mori steps up, the new elder of Namek. And then Turles tries to explain everything. He gets they have no reason to trust him, especially because the last time he was here, he was kind of an evil maniac. Like, sure, he fought Frieza, but clearly he was a bad guy back then. But Mori could already tell by reading his heart and his energy. Turles even lets him do so. And Mori could see, Turles isn't bad at all anymore. He's more than willing to help, especially because Turles did kind of help them a while ago. And once he hears what's going on, they're more than inclined to help. This is a threat to not just the entire galaxy, but the entire universe, the multiverse, every timeline that exists. And with Namek's help, they could stop this. But these Dragon Balls aren't going to be able to do anything against someone who used the power of the Super Dragon Balls. And Turles says there's no need. He just needs 3 wishes. But Mori smiles. He's going to need a little bit less than that because the Dragon Balls have been upgraded here. Even better. He makes one wish, worded in a way to make sure it restores the most things possible. He says to reverse all the damage caused by Zamasu, which means not only restoring all the inanimate stuff destroyed by him, but reviving all the people killed by him too. Well, at least within this universe. Porunga isn't powerful enough to affect the other universes. But that's fine, that could all wait for later. He just needs one person to help. But then everyone hears something and sees a big flash of light nearby. It's Zamasu. And then he realizes where he ended up. So Turles went to Namek to restore everything, didn't he? He's not too concerned though. He doesn't know if Porunga was summoned yet, but it doesn't matter because there's nothing that could reverse his power or immortality. Especially because now, he made a new wish. Turles then vanishes from the planet once again. Moving so fast that it looks like he's teleporting, but no. He just launches into the air, tackling Zamasu. Within seconds, they're so far from Namek that it's not in harm's way. But Zamasu's still confused. How did he escape the seal? Turles says no godly technique like that is going to work on him. Especially some pesky paralysis technique. He's encountered way worse in his days. And besides, for such an omnipotent and powerful god, he sure was pretty easy to trick. But Zamasu doesn't take the bait. Turles is obviously trying to piss him off. But Zamasu isn't concerned at all. He made a very simple but powerful wish. Simply put, he wished to be the strongest thing in existence, even beyond Zeno. And he's not bluffing. He could even just erase Turles on the spot here, but that won't be fun. He wants to make sure he pays for his sins. So he'll drag this out as long as possible. But Turles chuckles. That's perfect. He was scared that Zamasu was going to wish for infinite power or something, but no. No matter how much strength he has, it's still finite. And also, it means he has time to fight and won't just be erased on the spot. And that's all he needed. That means his next attack will work perfectly. Why just wish for that? Why not wish for infinite strength? Zamasu says it's a little bit excessive. He only asks for what's necessary, and this way no one's going to be able to stop him. Unlike these mortals, he has some sort of restraint. Zamasu thinks far differently than Turles' primitive mind. And Turles thinks to himself that this will be the death of Zamasu. It seems their lowly immortal minds are better. Turles starts by playing up the battle, making it look like he can't do anything against Zamasu. And he does go full power, and nothing he does can harm Zamasu. Zamasu doesn't even counterattack. He'll let Turles wear himself out before he realizes it's useless. And with how strong Zamasu is, Zamasu doesn't even really take any damage. Not that it would matter because he just regenerated. Turles fighting him is like an ant trying to destroy a planet. And it's working. Zamasu's buying the bait. Now, Turles really hasn't tried this technique on anyone, but he has trained with Goku a lot before. So much in fact that he's tried to pick up on some different techniques from him. And he formulated one of his own, based on a technique that he's very familiar with, one that he was actually on the receiving end of. He did want to learn the Spirit Bomb from Goku, but he realized that in a lot of situations, that might not work that well. It requires energy around him, and even then, it takes a while to charge. But he's come up with something much more fitting for his own power, and he finally gets to try it out against an enemy. He tells Zamasu he has one last thing that might work against him, but he's not sure if it will work. Although, deep down, he knows it will. He's just trying to make Zamasu think that it's not going to do anything. He learned this from his training with Goku, as well as his own research. He never did end up growing a Tree of Might for himself, but he did study the effects of the Tree of Might and figured out how it actually draws out power from people. Well, at least somewhat. He didn't fully figure this out because otherwise he would have unlocked this new form right away. But he kinda knows the basics of it. Combining his training with Goku as well as his knowledge on that, he formulated something strange. He didn't actually figure out a way to unlock more power with the Tree of Might. Not that he'd want to anyways, but knowing the source of the power within someone's body, he actually figured out the inverse, a way to use the power against someone. Goku inadvertently did this when using the Spirit Bomb with the Tree of Might. At least to some extent. Turles only realized that way after the fact. He holds out a hand, generating a small red orb. Zamasu laughs. What is that attack supposed to do against an immortal being like him? This is Turles' Might Bomb. Instead of gathering Genki from others, he uses it in the opposite way. Vegeta's words echo in his head too. What type of mighty Saiyan is he if he can't win the battles in front of him? He throws the Might Bomb at Zamasu, and the attack connects. Zamasu feels nothing at first, and Turles makes it look like he's defeated. That attack did nothing. But once again, this is more of his brilliant acting. Zamasu then tries to summon some power of his own, but it feels like he can't. Maybe he's just not used to this new power yet since he hasn't used it at all. But what he doesn't realize is that he just lost the fight. No matter how much power he has, as long as his power is finite, this attack will work. And actually, more power makes this attack work even better. Zamasu tries to summon more power, but he starts feeling a dull pain, and the pain starts growing more and more. This attack is essentially a reverse spirit bomb. It drains the power from the person it hits to fuel it, siphoning their energy and willpower. Rather than being charged externally by that, it's charged internally. And as far as Turles learned recently, that willpower of his is a huge source of his own power, so restricting that works even better. Theoretically, this attack could even defeat someone like Zeno. Not that he would use it against him, but it looks like he has his answer now with a guy stronger than Zeno. This attack is deadly though. So, for example, in a tournament if he used this, it wouldn't be viable because it would just kill the opponent. But in a deathmatch like this, it's a great trump card. This attack starts affecting Zamasu more and more. The more he powers up, the more it harms him. His body is completely destroyed, multiple times over. It keeps destroying itself, and he's basically caught in a loop of this. It's sheer agony. This technique is so vile. How did Turles come up with it? Only a mortal could think of something this cruel. But Turles says Zamasu is to blame for that. Now, he's sworn off using this against regular opponents, given the obvious cruel nature of it. But he tells Zamasu this attack isn't drawn from his own cruelty. Rather, it's powered by Zamasu's, his hatred, his willpower to kill everybody here, the wish he made to get that strong. Had he used this on Zamasu before, it probably wouldn't have done nearly as much. It might have not even been able to kill him even if he weren't immortal. This attack is Zamasu's undoing, and Zamasu himself is the only one to blame for its power. But yeah, the technique is cruel. His old self would have loved to use this. And honestly, he feels kind of bad. It's like a cheat code to win. It makes fights not fun at all. However, there's nothing fun about this fight. This is serious, and this is payback for what Zamasu's done. But there's a reason he made the wish that he did. Two people then appear next to Turles, Beerus and Whis. Good, the wish actually did bring them back. He brought Beerus back because he was hoping that he could just Hakai Zamasu. Since he's immortal, Turles can't kill him himself. Beerus is glad that he has been brought back, but he's still pretty pissed off, especially with this info because he tells Turles he can't actually destroy people who are immortal. What? Turles turns pale and his stomach drops. Well, Zamasu's caught in a loop of agonizing pain, but it seems like he can't be killed then. But Beerus says there's no need to worry. With him here, this will all be fine. And he tells Turles he did a good job. Thanks to him, everything's safe. He holds a hand out. He used this a while ago on another Kai actually. Not that Turles would know. And thanks to Turles' Might Bomb actually kind of weakening Zamasu in a way, Beerus is able to do this. Had he not been weakened at all, this would be impossible. But with ease, Beerus is able to seal Zamasu away. The same way Elder Kai was sealed. Turles powers down. It's finally over. They all return to Earth, and everyone's a bit confused about what happened, but Turles explains everything because he really was the only one alive. Sure, Turles actually fought Zamasu directly, but it's thanks to Namek and Beerus. Without Namek, he wouldn't have been able to bring Beerus back, and without Beerus, Zamasu wouldn't have been sealed away. But Goku tells Turles he needs to give himself a lot more credit. Sure, maybe he didn't beat Zamasu on his own, but who would beat an immortal person like that anyways? With his own plans, it worked perfectly well. He didn't beat Zamasu physically. And Goku kinda jokes about this too. He might not be the mightiest physically against Zamasu, but he was the mightiest mentally. There's more to power than just raw strength, and with a brain like that, Turles might as well be the strongest thing in existence. Especially once Goku hears that he used the Might Bomb. He knew Turles swore it off, and only would use it in dire circumstances like this. There's no fun in it, there's no honor in it. But against an opponent like that, it's perfect, and completely deserved. A ship then lands on the planet. It's Jocko. Turles panics and tries to hide, but Jocko calls him out. He tells Turles it's pointless to hide, especially because Tights and Bulma told him everything. Wait, what? His own wife ratted him out? And Jocko says he doesn't need to worry. The Galactic Patrol had already found Turles here. Especially after all these fights, he was pretty easy to track. They just couldn't stop him in their own way. But Tights and Bulma tried to get Jocko to pull some strings, and especially after him basically just saving the entire multiverse here, they were putting in a really good word for him. And Jocko says he has no need to worry about that bounty anymore. Not like they could do anything against him anyways. And you could tell that Turles avoided the Galactic Patrol not because he was scared of them, but scared of what he would do to them, knowing that they were completely outmatched. Consider this community service for all the crimes he's committed in the past. And he's a bit shocked for a second, but laughs. Exactly as expected of Tights. He might have just saved the universe, but she just saved him. He's pretty lucky to have her. Next up, we do have the Tournament of Power. The team here will be a little bit different because they don't have the androids. And obviously, Turles would be on the team too. But if they recruit the usual people, we're still short 2 members. Goku nearly suggests Frieza, but Turles has his own idea. Why not just ask Goten and Trunks? Yeah, they're not too powerful, but still, they're Saiyans, and at the end of the day, this will be a good experience for them. Besides, what other option do they really have? Of course, Yamcha tries to get on the team, but that's not going to happen here. And they could go with one of the kids and then Yamcha, but those two are kind of a package deal. It's better to have the two of them together fighting alongside each other. Piccolo is a bit bummed because this means he'll have to babysit them during the entire tournament. But as the guy who's basically been training them for the most part, this will be a good experience for them. He just has to make sure they don't go off the rails. We haven't really seen much of Goten and Trunks, but since they never learned fusion, they do fight a lot more individually. Now, they're great fighting alongside each other. The same goes for Canon. But this might make them a better pick for the tournament just because of the fact that they actually know how to fight individually instead of relying on fusion for the most part, instead of having to rely on Gotenks as a crutch. So they're marginally stronger and marginally more experienced because of that. And that gives us the team for the tournament. But those last few members didn't really matter too much because at the end of the day, Universe 7's going to get a pretty easy win here. The tournament may serve as a great catalyst for Goku to unlock Ultra Instinct, also giving Vegeta another hurdle to surpass because now Turles and Kakarot are ahead of him. If he wants to truly surpass them, he's going to have to try something different. But still, he is strong in his own right, and the three of them basically carry the entire team during the tournament. Jiren would definitely be the toughest foe, but Turles is a perfect matchup for him, not just in terms of power, but in terms of how he thinks. The two of them are just so focused on strength, but they go about it in different ways. Turles has learned this lesson against multiple opponents, and he can see pretty plainly that Jiren's going about it all wrong. Of course, Goku has the same view on it too. It's not really the first time Turles fought an opponent that was so focused on strength that he basically pushed everything else aside. In the end, they would win this fight, and Jiren still leaves fulfilled. His ideals clashing with Turles' ideals, as well as Goku's ideals, that will help him leave a better person. But that's basically the entire tournament. And in all honesty, we're kind of glossing over it here because of the fact that Jiren's really the only big focus here. And following this arc, a few other things might be avoided. For one, without Frieza, there's of course no Broly here either. And there's no real reason for any of the Saiyans to seek him out, nor know that he exists in the first place. This would also affect Granola's story, and without Frieza being revived, the Heaters and Granola don't really need to do what they did in the main story. And that brings us to our final villain. A few years have passed after the tournament. By now, all three of the Saiyans are going down their own paths in terms of strength. Turles continues improving his power. Now, he doesn't even need a new form, he's just using what he already has. But the other two are reinventing themselves as well. Ever since getting it in the tournament, Goku's wanted to unlock Ultra Instinct, of course, with Vegeta also being set down a different path earlier on. And a lot of this is due to Turles. Turles reminded Vegeta of that same lesson that he taught Turles. Maybe instead of focusing on what he already has, he has to focus on a change in mind and attitude. Now, of course, Vegeta knows this, but he has no clue of where to go next, and the Ultra Instinct form doesn't really suit him. But Beerus overhears this conversation between the two, and it gets him thinking. He has an idea of something that might suit Vegeta very well and make him a more worthy rival. Besides, with him lagging behind the two others, Beerus knows a way that might make him jump ahead. So, Goku's been training under Whis, Vegeta's been training under Beerus, although I use the term training very loosely, and Turles for the most part does his own thing, but he more so trains with Whis and spars with both the others. But at some point someone contacts Whis. It's Bulma, with Tights on the line too, as well as someone else, Jocko. This was basically a game of telephone. There's been an issue with the Galactic Patrol, so Jocko wanted to get Turles' help. He's not on the planet, but thankfully he found Tights, who then took Jocko to Bulma, who's now talking to Whis, who's now talking to Turles, who's also talking to the other two Saiyans. Someone else steps on the line to explain everything, saying his name's Maris. There was a prison break not too long ago, a prisoner named Moro. Now, he has no magic. The seal on his magic was never broken, but he did find another way to get out of prison, thanks to the help of a lot of other prisoners. He's been spending years planning this. And of course he's been locked away for millions of years, but something recently jump-started this, him hearing about the Tree of Might. Moro always thought that if he escaped, it would be hard to get his magic back. Not even the Dragon Balls could help because they wouldn't be strong enough to break the Grand Supreme Kai's seal. He'd have to get the Super Dragon Balls if anything. But now, he has a new way to obtain power. He and a few prisoners are going to work on this. Although right now Moro's in kind of a tough spot because he's not very strong. Physically he's pretty weak, and in terms of magic, he can't even use that. But he's given the other prisoners a promise. Once he's regained his magic, well, how great would it be to have a magician on their side? Of course, Moro's not going to work for them. If anything, he's manipulating them to work for him. But the premise of having someone as strong as Moro on their side, that really does entice them. The prison break was a lot tougher because Moro didn't have any magic, and they basically had to protect him the entire time. But now he has two pretty simple objectives, and he only has to accomplish one of them. He either needs to find the Grand Supreme Kai and kill him, or find out how to get a Tree of Might. Which, thanks to a lot of the prisoners in there, isn't too hard because of how much knowledge they have on this type of illicit stuff. He still does want to pursue the Grand Supreme Kai because that seems like the easier method, not knowing that of course he's been absorbed by Buu. Judging by his reaction in chapter 47, he didn't realize that the Grand Supreme Kai was part of Buu until they actually met. And Buu was never released nor destroyed. The Kais have Buu's egg and it's pretty under control. Not that any of that matters. Moro would still need his own magic to get to the Grand Supreme Kai, and to be able to fight him in the first place. So, it looks like that's going to have to be the second objective. First, he's going after the Tree of Might. Now, of course, the Galactic Patrol didn't know any of this, although they weren't too concerned because of how strong Moro was at that point, which wasn't very strong. He was a high priority threat, but they thought maybe they could handle him, and by the time they actually did encounter Moro, it was already far too late. He and his crew had already planted trees of might. Only a handful, but it was enough to give Moro a lot more physical strength, making him too tough for any of the Galactic Patrol to fight. Now at this point, Moro realized that all he needed to do was find the Grand Supreme Kai, but this power, something about it is so intoxicating. Maybe a few more fruits wouldn't hurt. With him gaining more strength, it became harder and harder for the patrol to get to him. And even if they did get to him in time, he was far too strong of an opponent, even without magic. Now, eating all these fruits in rapid succession, it was pretty risky for him, but there was a high reward alongside it. At some point, not only did he regain a bunch of physical power, but something snapped inside of him. The Tree of Might not only affected his physical strength, but his latent magical abilities too. And with the combination of these two bubbling up inside of him, eventually, Moro was able to break the seal on his own. And once he did this, the power was overflowing. All that magic that was held back, now empowered by the Tree of Might as well. Combined with his newfound physical strength, this is more than Moro could have ever imagined. Of course, a lot of the crew did want to get some of the Tree of Might for themselves, and they could have done so at any time. But they were morbidly curious to see how strong Moro would grow with his magic and all. And now, with such a strong ally like this, they're unstoppable. And any who did try to betray him, well, they were dealt with. Those who stayed loyal to Moro the entire time, they get everything they ever wanted, all the spoils of conquering planets and such. So, while they could have gotten a lot of strength for themselves, in the end, this was the wisest move for them. And that's why the Galactic Patrol is contacting everybody. Moro is far too strong of an opponent, so they're grasping at straws here, but they do need some sort of help. And that's where Goku, Vegeta, and Turles come in. Turles has no objections, especially because he doesn't want to go back on their bounty list again. He doubts he will in the first place, but just to be on the safe side. And regardless, all three of them would be up for it because it sounds like a fun fight. Besides, hearing about how his magic works, Turles thinks he has the perfect way to defeat him. They go to Earth, meeting up with Maris and Jocko, then being taken to a planet where intel suggests Moro will be next. Although by the time they already get there, it's already a bit too late. Turles can immediately tell. The Tree of Might's already been planted. It's not fully grown yet, but as they fly over the planet, he could see. Pretty clearly from space, there is an area that looks like a tree is about to grow. Which is pretty bad that the tree's that far along that it can be seen from space, even though it's not fully grown yet. And Turles says it might already be too late. The nutrients from the planet are going to be gone by the time they land. Goku, Vegeta, and Turles are dropped off, watching the tree grow in the distance. Goku can't believe these things are still out there. Same for Turles. The two of them remember how devastating it was for Earth. Vegeta never got to see for himself, but of course he heard the tales of it. And this is insane. Now, maybe at this point in the story, it's not too crazy in terms of the power. But to think, this was around the time that Vegeta went to Earth to fight Kakarot. Only a few weeks after, actually. Turles used this kind of power to grow that strong. He didn't realize this is what the tree was capable of. And he can only imagine how strong a fruit from it must be. They're pretty quickly intercepted by Moro's crew, but they're not too much of an issue. Until Moro himself arrives. Now, without a wish from the Dragon Balls, he never regained his youth. So he still looks pretty old, but he's no longer frail and weak. He has access to all of his magic, and all the physical strength from the Tree of Might. But in the meantime, this seems like a very efficient method. Honestly, at this point, he doesn't even need the Tree of Might. Now with his magic activated, he could just absorb planets as is, and lend that energy to other people. But he's curious as to how far the power of the Tree of Might's fruit goes. He feels like if he eats more, he'll gain a power far greater than anything that magic could give him. And once he arrives to face the three Saiyans, he's a bit confused, not knowing who they are. Well, one of them actually does look familiar, and he remembers. This guy was the reason that he found out about the Tree of Might in the first place. Now it's coming back to him. Turles, of the Crusher Corps. From what Moro remembered hearing, he went around planets first to get some Trees of Might. And that's when the rumors started spreading around the Galactic Patrol, leading Moro to find out more about this. He always had known about the Tree of Might, at least very vaguely. But he thanks Turles for ushering in this new era. Why is he here? To get the Tree of Might back for himself? Turles says he has no need for that. He's grown far stronger without it. Although, it would be good to ensure that there's no other Trees of Might being planted. Quickly in his hand, he makes a Might Pop, throwing it at Moro. This takes Moro by surprise, and at first, he actually does struggle with it. But then he sees how it works. Interesting. He counters it. Utilizing his magic, he's able to remove it from himself. This is quite the impressive technique. Against anyone else, you could see how terrifying it would be. And Turles can't believe how easily he countered that. He only used this here because he knew how strong Moro was. He heard everything from Maris and Jocko. He wouldn't have used this otherwise. But still, it did nothing to Moro. So, this guy has a lot of physical power, and his magic allows him to absorb energy, as well as manipulate it. Well, he powers down. He tells the other two it's their turn to go. This kind of surprises Moro. He's giving up like that? Well, not exactly. Turles just thinks this is the smarter idea. Goku and Vegeta then step up, each surrounded by their own unique auras. Goku goes into Ultra Instinct, with Vegeta showcasing Ultra Ego. They kind of formulated this plan on the way here. Using Ultra Instinct, Goku could fight an opponent like this pretty effectively without having his energy drained. And as for Vegeta, it's going to be pretty hard for someone to drain his energy if that energy will destroy him. And while these two handle this, Turles is going to handle the tree. Moro tries to stop Turles, but Vegeta and Goku then stop him. Focus on them for the time being. Turles plows through the rest of Moro's crew, still pretty surprised seeing another Tree of Might. To think that it's still out there. He's already seen the tree act as the downfall for someone else once. Well, it wasn't really someone else, it was him, just in a different timeline. And he knows Moro's strength here, it's going to be fleeting. No matter how much power he has from the Tree of Might, he won't truly ever get anywhere with it. Back at the fight between Moro, Vegeta, and Goku, he is having an incredibly tough time. He can't hit Goku, he dodges all of the attacks perfectly, with Goku attacking at a close range. But Moro also has to focus on dodging Vegeta's attacks, imbued with his destructive power. With the two of them fighting together, they are actually able to overwhelm Moro pretty quickly, as Turles focuses on taking out Moro's crew, and destroying the tree too. There's a powerful glow in the distance, as Turles overloads the tree with his own energy, incinerating it. Moro watches on as the tree crumbles. Not too concerned, he can still make it out of here, and he doesn't really need the tree. But the glow of the tree is obstructed as Vegeta stands in front of him, holding out a hand, smiling, seeing if Moro could absorb this blast, as he Hakai's Moro, destroying the magician. Turles then flies back over to them. In his hand, he does hold a piece of the tree that remains, a seed that he can actually replant to grow another. But no, he's not going to do that. He gave up on that long ago. He crushes it in his hand, burning it up with his ki too. Moro is just another cautionary tale of what would happen if people planted more trees of might. And he wonders how Moro even got the seed for it in the first place. Maybe it would be good if Turles just destroyed the rest of them, if he could manage to find them somehow. And unsurprisingly, once Turles gets back, he sees that Moro's been defeated. Well, looks like their job here is done, with the patrol taking them back home. But as they arrive back, they then meet up with Piccolo. It's good that they're here. While they were gone, he fought a new foe, a foe that seemingly came from the Red Ribbon Army. He was able to infiltrate their base, and it seems like they're trying to rebuild a new version of Cell. And if that's the case, it would be really good to have the three of them helping. And of course they're not going to turn this down. Earth is at stake after all. But also, it's another fun battle where they could actually go all out. The fight with Moro was interesting, but for Vegeta and Goku it was a bit underwhelming, especially for Turles too, who couldn't even fight against him. But hey, if they're facing off against another Cell, it's the perfect chance for the three of them to fight at full power all together. This way, they could truly see which of the three Saiyans is the strongest right now. Turles, Vegeta, or Goku. Piccolo thinks they need to take this a bit more seriously, but he's not too surprised with the reaction. Well, he's just glad to have the three of them here. If that version of Cell does end up awakening, at least it'll be pretty fun for Piccolo to watch the three Saiyans fight him. He's not too concerned. He knows they can handle it, and they know they can handle it. As the three Saiyans go off to stop Cell once more, each ready to prove that they're stronger than the other two, this is where we end off our story. What'd you guys think about this scenario? I had fun redoing it and changing Turles' character up from what it was in the original, but let me know what you think below. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel, and it shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, thanks for supporting the series all the way through, and I'll see you all in my next video.